Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order our January monthly meeting of the Board of Education on January 20th, 2026 at 7 o'clock p.m. If some of you have been with us previously, you'll notice that we do have some new faces at the table. And I'd like to acknowledge that we actually held our very first meeting of the year a week ago. We had our second budget workshop, and at that time we had to reassess our executive board and make sure that we had all those positions in place. So when I do the roll call tonight, you'll hear names that are already situated, but I wanted to call your attention to that because we certainly do welcome our new board members. And we welcome Nicole into her new role here as well. So if you don't mind, I'm going to call the meeting to order so that anybody who's new knows who's sitting up here at the table. I will start with our Board of Ed members. I'm Deborah Shute. I am the chair. We have Dr. Thage Singh, our vice chair.
Present, Deb, thank you.
Nicole Russo, our secretary.
Present, thank you.
Lynn Katz.
Present, thank you, Deb.
Sarah Heath.
Here, thank you.
Suzanne Zakaris.
Present, thank you.
Chris Campbell.
Here, thank you.
Jessica Giulietti.
Present, thank you.
Dr. Kevin McGarry.
Present, thank you.
Thank you. And now for administrators, we have Dr. Carnamola, our superintendent.
Thank you.
Mr. Medic, our assistant superintendent.
Present, thank you.
Ms. Russo, our business manager.
Present, thank you.
Ms. Sardinskis, executive assistant to the superintendent, and our board clerk. Thank you. If you would all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. I always like to start our meetings with the mission statement because I think it reminds us of the work that we do here at the table together. Our mission is to inspire in each student a joy and passion for learning and a commitment to excellence, personal integrity, and social responsibility. This is also always our perfect segue into our recognition, and we have three amazing people that we are recognizing this evening. I would like to call forward Ms. Wallace, if she wouldn't mind. Recognizing a student to begin.
Yep.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. All right. So I have the privilege tonight of recognizing two outstanding individuals from the Avon Middle School community. I'm going to start with a student. I'm going to ask her to come join me up here. She's thrilled. Everyone smile at Emma. There we go. All right, Emma Nocera is a 7th grade student at Avon Middle School. You see how my hand is shaking up here? I just want you to know that my hand is shaking because I'm so excited for you. Emma is a 7th grade student at Avon Middle School, being recognized tonight for her incredible communication, collaboration, critical thinking, independence and adaptability, and cultural competence. Does that sound familiar to anyone? The portrait of the graduate, as she led the charge in bringing the first ever Special Education Youth Advisory Council to Avon Public Schools. The Connecticut State Department of Education, Bureau of Special Ed, and the Special Ed Resource Center is in its 8th year of implementing the Special Education Youth Advisory Council at schools across the state. This council is designed to increase student involvement and voice as it relates to supporting students with varying learning profiles and to help students develop strong, effective leadership skills in order to make positive changes in their school and community. The council meets at various times throughout the year with a faculty advisor, in our case it's Austin Busby, and representatives from the Special Education Resource Center to gather student feedback to provide at the local and state level, participate in leadership trainings, and they will attend a leadership conference and college tour later in the spring. To date, there are 22 school districts in the state. For reference, there's 196 towns in the state of Connecticut, 22 school districts who have active advisory councils. And we are grateful to Emma to be one of those 22 school districts, lifting up the voices of our students to ensure we are providing them with high expectations, high support, and ensuring that students remain at the center of what we do each day. Emma, thank you for your passion, your advocacy, and your commitment to student voice, leadership, and learners with various profiles and strengths. Congratulations.
Emma, that's very impressive. We are definitely going to be giving you a certificate tonight, so we want you to come forward so that we can officially shake your hand. But before we do that, I just want to say how proud we are of you. Hearing that you're in 7th grade and this is all that you've already started achieving, we know you're just getting started. And I can only imagine what you've already done even prior to this. So thank you for being who you are. We're so proud of you and that you're part of our family here. And we definitely are proud to recognize you tonight. So please come on forward so we can shake your hand. Do you mind standing over this way so we can take a picture? You don't have to. You can go around. Yeah. And the parents, please come forward if you want to take a picture as well. You can. Oops, sorry.
Congratulations. Thank you, Emma. And thank you to the Nocero family for sharing your daughter with us. All right. You want me to just keep it rolling? All right. I also have the honor of recognizing Mr. Rowan Suma. Hi, Rowan. Everyone say hi to Rowan. Hi, Rowan. Hi, Duncan. All right. I also have the honor of recognizing Mr. Mark Suma, Avon Middle School Assistant Principal and Connecticut's Middle School Assistant Principal of the Year. Round of applause. I am going to make you stand up here while I brag about you. While Mark is making his way up here tonight, we joke Mark's one stride is 17 of my strides. I was going to say something as you walked up, but it takes you half a second to do that. I also want to take a moment to recognize Mark's family who's in attendance tonight. We all know that our loved ones have a profound impact and influence on the professional selves that we are each day in our careers. Kelly, Duncan, and Rowan, thank you for sharing your husband and dad with us, and congratulations to the entire Suma family who's here tonight. And if anyone sees any dino eggs anywhere on the premises tonight, please let Rowan know. Thank you. So Mark joined Avon Middle School. There's an entire page. In October of 2022, I had moved from assistant principal to the principal role that August, and my first order of business as AMS principal was to work with Dr. Carnamola, Mr. Medic, and the central office team to conduct a search process for my assistant principal. From the moment Mark walked through the doors of Avon Middle School, yes, he did fit. He cleared the entrance. It was like he had always been there. His passion for and experiences supporting middle-level learners, his keen instructional background, his sense of humor, and the very natural way he interacted with various stakeholders, it was not long until we started our journey together as the administrative team at Avon Middle School. After Mark's second year at AMS, I reached out to Dr. Carnamola to suggest that we consider nominating him for Connecticut's Assistant Principal of the Year. I did consider it after year one, but I don't want him to leave with too big of an ego tonight. And we were in agreement that he would be an outstanding candidate. Well, then I learned that CAS requires that an administrator be in their position for 3 years before they're eligible. So we waited another 365 days and the day the nomination became available, I was on the phone with Dr. C immediately. After a grueling application process filled with recommendations from students, parents, colleagues, and administrators, a 3.5-hour site visit in December, during which the committee from CAS interviewed students, staff, parents, administrators, Board of Education members, and finally Mark himself, the word that came to mind before the decision even came back that Mark had been selected was proud. See, Mark Suma is probably one of the most humble, calm, cool, and collected individuals that I've ever known. Mark leads with a quiet confidence, shies away from public recognition and attention, and does this work purely because of the impact he can have on the lives of children, families, and educators each and every day. That's what makes this award even more important. Mark, dramatic pause. Despite your best efforts, you can't shy away from the fact that you're Connecticut's Middle School Assistant Principal of the Year. You deserve this recognition for your hard work, and every day you inspire a joy and passion for learning, commitment to excellence, personal integrity, and social responsibility in all that you do. I'm so proud of you and happy to share the talent that you bring every day to AMS to a larger stage. Congratulations. I believe Mark has a scroll that he's going to roll out with all of his thank yous.
Thank you all. When I had found out I won this award, it didn't take long for me to inform several people that I don't enjoy the spotlight, and I don't seek it out for sure. But I'm going to take the time now, while I have it, to stand in it and share it. Right? Although this is an Assistant Principal of the Year award, it's really an award for everybody, and I wanted to take this time to share some of that limelight with the whole district, to be honest. The central office and building administrators here tonight, all of the staff and educators in our building that do this work on the ground, our foot soldiers, so to speak, with kids every day, the families in the community that support our kids, and most importantly, all of the students themselves that make doing this work enjoyable and easy. In the summer of 2022, I recall going on a journey of various interviews and plugging away over time. And then towards the end of summer, I landed at Avon Middle School for my interview for this role. The journey reminded me of my high school basketball journey, trying to walk on to a state championship contender as a junior in high school. Put the hours in, refined my craft, and continued to put the hard work in behind the scenes, hoping eventually I would get a little bit of time on the court. Dr. C, Mr. Medic, Ms. Wallace, thank you for the playing time. I appreciate it, and I'm happy to have made the most of it. The past few years, I've had the wonderful opportunity to become a dad twice over in 20 months. It's been fun. Bye, guys. And through that process, I've been reminded that the role of husband, dad, brother, father, and son is more important than any job title. So I'm very grateful for my family to be able to be here tonight to support me. Grateful for the love and support of my wife and the inspiration that my boys have provided me to keep doing this hard work and be the best version of myself. Growing up, I looked up to a lot of people, both of my parents for their unconditional love, my sister for her guidance, support, and tough love. She's good at it. And Kobe Bryant, of all people, but he was an inspiration to me. A quote that stuck with me a long time ago that he had said, he attributed to a middle school English teacher of his in regards to his drive to continue. And it read, "Don't rest in the middle, rest at the end." It's not lost on me that last Monday our admin team took time out during our admin retreat to do just that. It's also not lost on me that Friday is our 90th day of school, and we're halfway there. It's also not lost on me that I'm being recognized tonight. I take this as an honor, but it's not time to rest, not for me. This is, however, a time to reflect, a time for gratitude, and a time for recalibrating so that all of our collaborative efforts in Avon Public Schools as parents, as board members, administrators, and teachers continue to create the space that kids need to grow and thrive and become the best version of themselves. Thank you all.
Don't sit down yet. So that's okay. It's all good. Yeah. So Christina, yeah, please don't. On the cushion. Thank you. That's perfect. So Christina did a great job of saying so many of the things that I would love to say as well. It's such an honor to have you amongst us, and the fact that you did apply in so many places and we were fortunate enough to get you for ourselves. This is a huge honor. This is such a fantastic moment. And I know, again, just like we just said for Emma, this is just the beginning for you. You are too young for this to be the end, right? So you're in the thick of it all. And I see the joy and the passion that you have for this job. It was a calling and you answered it. And we are so happy that you chose us. Nicole and I had the advantage of participating in that process, and it was so easy to speak highly of you. There was no effort really at all. We were just grateful to be a part of that. We are thrilled that your family does share you with us. We know that that is real. You are being shared, and so we don't take that lightly. We have a certificate for you as well, and if you will accept a congratulatory hug and a picture, we would love to do that as well. So, and Dr. Carnemola would like to say something too.
Mark, I'm going to leave it at, none of us could have said anything better than you just said to congratulate you, because everything that you just stood up and said to us about winning this award is exactly why you have won this award, and it speaks for itself and your professionalism, and I really appreciate working with you. Thank you.
I have to ask a clarifying question on the record. This whole not being done, I just want to play in front of a live studio audience. It's going to be a great next 25 years working together, right? Okay. Just want to get that on the record. Okay. Rowan, dino eggs? Okay. Someone take the mic. My voice went up for Rowan, not. The rest of you look great.
And now we're excited to have another member of our staff be recognized, and I'll throw it to Susan.
Thank you, and I'd stand up, but I don't have my reading glasses, so I can't read it digitally from my phone, and Christine is a hard act to follow. But I'm very happy to introduce an exceptional leader in school nutrition, not only in the state of Connecticut, but also nationally, just recently appointed to the National Board of the School Nutrition Association. I've had the pleasure to work with Maggie Dreyer in dual roles in both Avon and Canton for, I think, almost 10 years at this point. So it's really excited. Maggie and I know each other well and have had a great relationship during that time. Maggie was recently honored with the National Innovation in Preparation of School Meals Award, presented by the USDA, Healthy Meals Incentives, and Action for Healthy Kids. This is a very prestigious national recognition that celebrates her commitment to serving nutritious, scratch-made meals prepared with fresh, locally sourced ingredients, transforming really what a school meal can be and what you think it is. Her award-winning recipes, including pasta bolognese, turkey chili with black beans, and my personal favorite, her roasted harvest vegetables, which she does for us every Thanksgiving meal, and I ask her to do. So thank you, Maggie, every time. Have been also not only honored for this, but that roasted vegetable recipe was included in a cookbook that's out there. In addition to this, she's also, as I mentioned, been nominated to be on the leadership committee for the National School Association of Nutrition, and she's going to be on the Leadership Development Committee. And this is important because Maggie is not only a leader, as I said, in our district, but also in the state. She really takes the time to develop new talent as new directors come up through the ranks. She spends time with them, she mentors them, and in fact, one of her mentees is the one who pushed her to submit her recipes to be recognized. So we're very glad that she did, and I want to recognize and congratulate her on this really distinguished honor.
Thank you. I'm really honored. Not my comfort zone. I'm really honored for this. And when I started this job, Bridget and Susan and the administrators, gave me the freedom to create a program that I believed in. And I believe strongly in doing the best we can with what we feed kids. And you hear a lot on the news and a lot of crazy things, and a lot of it's not true. And there's a lot of changes that happen all the time. And to have the support means a lot to me, and to be honored. Thank you so much for taking the time. And I just want to mention my staff who work so hard. It is not an easy job in that kitchen. And sometimes I come up with some pretty crazy ideas that they deal with. But thank you so much. I really appreciate the acknowledgement.
Maggie, don't sit down just yet. You know, we have a certificate for you too, but I just want to acknowledge that I've gotten to know you over the years, and you've always been so lovely when you come to our meetings to answer all of our questions. And we finally got to a place, now we have some newer faces, but we got to a place where we all understood what we were doing when we were voting on these healthy foods every time and making sure that we're giving our students the best that we can. As a mom who had 3 kids go through, that matters to me. I'm so grateful that we are a district that can proudly say that. We're really trying to feed their minds and their bodies. So thank you for being a part of that, and thank you for being so lovely to work with. So we'd love to have a moment with you as well. We'll take a picture too, if you don't mind, but come on forward. So thank you. I love starting our meetings this way. I always want to let anyone who came tonight for the purpose of celebrating your loved one, we are not at all offended if you want to excuse yourselves. We know you have the rest of your evenings to get back to. So thank you for celebrating with us. We are proud to be a part of this with your memories as well. So now moving forward, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the Board of Education special budget meeting minutes of December 16th, 2025?
So moved.
Thank you, Suzanne. Do I have a second?
Second it.
Second by Lynn. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously with 9. Thank you. Next, do I have a motion to approve the Board of Education regular monthly meeting minutes of December 16th, 2025?
So moved.
Thank you, Chris. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Sarah. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously again with 9. Thank you. And finally, our Board of Education special budget workshop meeting minutes of January 13th, 2026. Do I have a motion to approve?
No.
All right, I heard Nicole and Thage. I'll take Nicole.
And then I'll
Thage.
second it.
Thank you, Thage. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously with 9. Thank you so much. Next is our communication from the public. We'll wait to see if Ms. Ernest sees any names on the list. Yes? All right. So before we get started, if you don't mind, I'll just read the, I don't want to call them rules, the guidelines, I guess, that we follow for this section of the meeting. This is the section of our meeting where Avon residents have the floor to share their thoughts and or concerns with the board. It is not an opportunity for conversation. Rather, it's the board's chance to listen to feedback from the community. Please add your name to the list, and Ms. Erdinskis will then call on you in order. You must state your name and address for the record. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. In an effort to hear as many of you as we can, we must adhere to this time limit. You can certainly state that you agree or disagree with a previous comment if you prefer to be brief. Brevity will allow more attendees to be heard. After 15 minutes are up, the board may choose to extend public comment or not. No speaker will include charges or complaints of a personal nature against any individual Avon Board of Education member or individual employee of the Avon Board of Education, whether the speaker names the individual or not. Please refrain from clapping or cheering. Ms. Sardinskis will be our timekeeper tonight. If you should reach 2.5 minutes, she will alert you with a 30-second warning. At the 3-minute mark, you'll be alerted again to signal that your time is up. We welcome your engagement and participation.
and this is Mirha.
Oh, okay, we'll put together. Okay, great. And Mirha Hassan.
Hi, my name is Mirha. I'm 5 and I'm in Roaringbrook School, and today's my half birthday.
Oh.
Thank you for considering Eve as a holiday. I would love to celebrate with my family and friends, and I'll share my sweets.
Aw.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mehak Mitani. I've been a resident of Avon for the past 5 years, and I'm a mother of 2 beautiful girls, who one of them goes to the kindergarten at RBS. First of all, I would like to thank you for giving the opportunity to speak tonight, and thank you for the time, care, and thoughtfulness that you guys have put together for the decision that impacts the entire school community. I want to express my sincere gratitude to the board for considering recognizing Eid as a part of the school calendar. This decision means a lot more than a simple holiday in the making. It represents inclusiveness, understanding, and the powerful message of belonging to so many students and families, including me and my family. For a Muslim child, seeing the faith acknowledged by their school system sends a clear and an affirming message that you are seen, you matter, and you belong here in a part of this community. It allows students to fully celebrate Eid with their families without conflicting about missing school or falling behind. What makes this even special is that this recognition invites the entire community to share the spirit of our holiday of Eid. Eid is about gratitude, generosity, joy, and togetherness. The values resonate far beyond one faith. By recognizing Eid, our school helps foster curiosity, empathy, and respect among all the students. I do want to say thank you to the board for considering commitment to quality and inclusion, and for listening to the voices of our family in your district. Your willingness to engage, reflect, and take meaningful steps towards shows true leadership and care for the well-being of your community and your district. So thank you again for your decision, dedication, and building a school community where diversity is not just acknowledged, it is truly celebrated. So thank you again for your time and your thoughtful leadership, and I really hope that Eid becomes a part of our calendar so that we can enjoy our time together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nice job. Anyone else, Christine? All right. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to share that with us. Moving on to items of information and proposals. Our student representatives, Siren Madison.
Hi everyone, this is Syra. So just some things that are going on this week, this month. So let's start off with Roaringbrook. They began their Bridges program in January, and I believe that's where just AHS students come to kind of just form to foster kind of growth in younger students, and I believe this will continue every other week. The American 250 Assembly was also held, and it seems to kind of go along with this message for all the schools about kind of continuing to celebrate America's 250th birthday throughout the year. And I believe specifically at Roaringbrook, presenters met kids, and there was a display, I believe, of colonial costumes and other things just kind of to celebrate our nation. And as for Pine Grove School, they additionally had a town meeting to kick off the Avon 250 on January 9th. They had a speaker on Revolutionary War spies, and this assembly is seemingly for all schools serving as a launch pad for the activities to follow. Something new that they just implemented that I thought was cool was an American history trivia every Tuesday, which will take place during morning announcements over the loudspeaker. Something that also happened this month was 7 students had the opportunity to have pancakes with the principal, which even I remember, I think, being a thing when I went to PGS, and they set a new goal of 150 Piney Paws, which is just kind of demonstrating good values of the school and just of the district in general. Something else that's beginning this week is they will begin to take Ames Web assessment screenings, and the teachers use this data from these screenings to kind of lesson plan and see just the general trends, I believe. And now, as for Thompson Brook School, something that began was they had a History Without Walls presenter at their 250 assembly, again, just covering kind of clothing, flag history, interesting facts about revolutionary spies. And something that's happening next month is a PTO-sponsored Glow Party, which is being held at the school on the 27th of February, which is sounds to be very fun. And something that is also happening is Second Step is in their stage where they're exploring recurring situations of strong emotion and kind of just managing your emotions, and that's for 5th graders. And the curriculum is a little different, I believe, for 6th graders, where they're kind of having a more focus on a positive sense of self and just self-concept in general. And the music programs are also moving along fairly well, with the concerts, I believe, for 5th and 6th grade being Thursday. So that's from Roaring Brook, Pine Grove, and Thompson Brook. And now, that's right.
Okay, I did AHS and AMS. So at AMS, similarly to all the other schools, the Ames Web testing is going to be taking place the last week of January. There's a town hall assembly on January 26th, and all students are encouraged to wear red, white, and blue to show their support. The AMS robotics team will be hosting their very own competition on February 7th, which is pretty cool. In terms of the high school, we are in the midst of midterms, so that'll be going on all week, and then semester 2 starts Monday. The sophomore class is having a Valentine's Day fundraiser, which helps raise class money for things like prom, graduation, all that. Spring sports registration is open. The Avon High School band concert was last Wednesday, and I believe that was a success. And we have a small break coming up in February, the 16th and 17th.
Thank you. No, you do have your midterms, so if you do have to excuse yourselves early, that's perfectly fine. We value education here, so that's good. Thank you. All right, so for our financial report, Susan, we didn't have our Finance Committee meeting. We had our second budget workshop in its place, and tonight we're discussing the budget, so I don't know if there's anything else you feel like adding at this moment in time. All right, thank you. All right, moving on to our curriculum or the committee reports, curriculum and professional practices. Lynn?
Yes, our next meeting is coming up next week, January 27th.
Excellent, thank you. Finance, as stated, we did not hold our meeting, but we had our second opportunity as a board to discuss the budget that you will see this evening. Our next meeting is on February 10th. Negotiations, Suzanne?
Yeah, there's nothing to report, but we will be beginning negotiations with the administrative assistants and safety security specialists, but those dates are not established just yet.
All right, thank you, Suzanne. And policy, Thage.
Yes, Deb, we'll be meeting again March 3rd, 2026.
Excellent, thank you. Chris, for CREC?
Yes, we meet tomorrow in Hartford. I'll be there for a few meetings, actually.
Excellent. And also, Chris has been helping to invite someone from CREC to come to one of our meetings in the future to discuss some of the funding and make it clearer for board members. We always need that refresher, so we appreciate you being the liaison for that.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. We'll keep everyone posted as to when that will work out. All right, for the board chair update, I just want to state if you weren't able to watch the meeting or read the minutes of our last budget, we did have the opportunity to assign new members for our committees. We have 4 committees that everyone serves on, and so I'm grateful to the board for getting back to me so quickly so that we were able to resolve that. So we have that moving forward. Again, we welcome our new board members. Thank you for being a part of the team. We are incredibly proud of our district for so many reasons, but we had 3 really excellent ones tonight with our recognition. And I'm also excited not only to discuss the budget, but also to discuss our calendar for the coming year. So thank you for all the time that has been taken to come and inform us and educate us. We look forward to acting on that this evening. After that, I'm going to throw it to Dr. Carnamola for the superintendent report.
Thank you. And Mr. Medic, the hiring report, short one tonight.
Good evening, everyone. The monthly hiring report for January shows that we are welcoming 2 new non-certified hires to the district. First, I'd like to welcome Karen Magrini, who joins us as a paraeducator at Avon High School, and Gabriella Susi, who joins us as the school nurse at Pine Grove School. In addition, we do have one resignation this month. I'd like to thank Ms. Tracy for her service to the district as a paraeducator. At this time, we are actively working to fill several openings across the district. We have several seasonal hires here at the high school, particularly athletic coaches that we're looking to fill, including freshman baseball, freshman volleyball, and assistant coach for crew. We're also working to fill a nutrition service position at Pine Grove School, as well as several paraeducator positions across the district. And as always, we do continue to add to our sub pool for daily custodian and substitute nurses. Thank you.
Thank you. Going to the enrollment report, we are up 7 students since the last time we were together, and we are continuing on with our kindergarten registrations. If you know anyone that has a student who is turning 5 by September, we encourage you to let them know that registration is rolling. Thank you. Moving on, I'll try to be as brief as I can tonight because we have the budget to go through. So just a few things. On our strategic plan update, we're planning for our half professional development day for February the 11th, and we have another full day on March 20th. One goal that we have is to revisit our vision for technology use in the Avon Public Schools and to develop additional guidelines for its use, both in teaching and learning considerations, as well as screen time on devices, cell phone usage, and so on. So really all-encompassing, taking a look at technology. I want to thank Elizabeth for going with me on my crazy idea, even though it's January, and I'm hoping we have this done before the end of the school year. So thank you, no pressure. And at our upcoming CPP meeting that Lynn just mentioned, Justine Ginsburg is going to join us from the Farmington Valley Health, and she is going to talk about the youth mental health first aid program that we actually, I had hoped this one because of the materials we do in person, but Justine actually has an issue with doing it in person. So she asked if we had her come, if we could be virtual. So I did have her drop off 9 of the books. I don't know if have they come yet? Has she dropped them off yet? I asked her to drop off, there's manuals, and I asked her to drop off 9 so that you would have them in advance of the meeting. And then that won't be the only thing that we do. We have a couple of other items to take care of, but wanted to make sure I put it out there because I think it'll be a nice update also on what we've done thus far with the training with faculty and staff in the district related to youth mental health first aid. Just in some general updates, there are 2 field trips on the board agenda tonight. The field trip for junior achievement, I just wanted to take a pause and shout out, I guess, to Maria Mascoli and our team here. This is the first time that our school has participated in the stock market, the Junior Achievement Stock Market Challenge. There were 318 students at this, and our teams came in 2nd, 5th, and 6th, and this was the first year. So we are pretty excited about that, and our team that came in 2nd place is the one hoping to go to compete in Boston. I say hoping because it isn't a given yet. There's work that they are continuing to do on their own as a team, and they have to complete that and turn it in. And if they make the next level, and we expect that they will, the way they have been working together, then they will go to Boston. So we just wanted to ensure that it was approved because it is an out-of-state trip. There is no cost associated with it for us. Junior Achievement is paying the entirety of it. So pretty exciting for the students and for us. The other trip that you see, also an out-of-state trip, we applied for a grant related to open choice, and this was a supplementary grant, I would call it. This is not a normal grant that we get. It's something they put out, was it last summer? He's not here today.
Mr. Haynes has been was working on it throughout the summer, and he's been championing, along with the work that Mr. Chris is doing, trying to find funding at CREC and through the Open Choice Program, any additional grants that might be there. And he said, can I go for this? And
we said yes.
Sure.
It was Tassan. Well, the grant was sent to us, and we shared it, and you had to, there are specifics like every other grant. This had to be utilized. You had to do something that was for open choice students, and it had to be above and beyond norm of what we do and innovative. So we went through a few iterations of it, and the one that we finally turned in and was approved is a part of that is what you see tonight, which is a field trip to historically black colleges, HBCs as they're referred to, and is being funded entirely by this grant. And Mr. Haynes and our high school staff has already been talking to students and parents about the possibility of drumming up interest to attend. We're hoping that students will take us up on that.
Just a question in regards to that. Is that open for all students that might want to attend, or is
No.
it limited just to open choice?
It is
students?
limited to open choice because the funds had to be used for open choice students.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, he is looking at grades 9 through 12, yes. Since it might be a once in a blue moon opportunity based on the grant that was given. Anything else?
No, all the funding, transportation, food, everything is included, and Mr. Haynes is working with, one thing I did want to point out is he's working in collaboration with some other open choice districts, I believe Simsbury, Farmington, and they're going to do a joint trip to make it economical for everybody to use the grant most effectively. And then those students can then work together as a bigger cohort of students across the valley.
You heard our student reps mention Avon 250, and I have to say Avon 250, not America 250, because America 250 is still copyrighted for the entire United States, and we are working through that process from one of the latest emails that I've gotten. So we are referring it for now as Avon 250. We've been working closely, a committee of us, Mr. Macy, who is with us tonight, is one that's been working alongside of us. In conjunction with the Historical Society, and on the back end, some other folks in town who are on the America/Avon 250 committee. And one of the things we decided to do was to have a kickoff, if you will, at each one of the schools, and that's what you heard tonight. It has already happened at 3 of the schools. We have Avon Middle School and Avon High School still to go within the next couple of weeks. But it's been pretty exciting for the kids, I think, is just one way to lead into the celebrations and the acknowledgement of America's history and path forward. So thank you, Mr. Macy, and everyone who's been working with us on the committee to keep that going. The calendar, the draft that you have for tonight, that is later on the agenda, as discussed, shows you what Eid al-Fitr would be as a scheduled holiday. That would be that schools are closed on March 9th, and that is on the calendar for you to see on March 9th. Other than that, there are no notable changes. We went through our calendar from this year and looked to next year, made some decisions in advance about professional learning days and so forth, because we like to provide parents as much lead time as we can for childcare reasons. So if you have any questions, we'll discuss that when we get to the new business. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to the consent calendar. Just for the sake of our new board members, I will be clear that this is designed so that we can vote on it as one lump item, unless any board members want to remove an item and add it as an agenda discussion piece. So barring anyone wanting to take one of the pieces off, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as is? Sarah?
Make a motion to approve.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Chris. All in favor? Aye, passes unanimously. We are incredibly thrilled for the students to have this opportunity. This is really exciting, and I'm grateful that we have staff that look into these and to offer it to the kids. So thank you for that. We do not have any old business. We are now into new business, and here we are at our discussion and possible approval of the 2026-2027 school year calendar. So, Dr. Carnamola, is there anything more you want to say regarding any of the items? All right, are there any questions? Go ahead, Kevin.
Question I have is, as you look at the calendar and adding another religious holiday, what's the criteria that we're looking at in adding that?
Do you want me to answer what we've been doing? Okay.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
So the set criteria is starts with looking at staffing. And this is what we've talked about over the course of, I don't know, how many of the previous board meetings, so I'm trying to recap. There are no givens, I should say, except the state holidays and the federal holidays with which we comply because banks are closed, other institutions are closed, they're already in union contracts, schools are closed. When we look at religious holidays, and really is up to Board of Ed in town by town or district by district, however it is set up, to make decisions based on one, staffing, and two, the population of the town. And so over time, we had looked here, this group has been lobbying for this holiday for several years. I don't even remember the first time that we came to the board or to me, and I think you came to the board and the superintendent before me, looking to add in Eid as a holiday to the calendar. I had asked them years ago to help the board by doing some research into how many students this might impact, how many families, and they were able to do that based on looking at the number of registered families that they have in the area Muslim center. So they did that. They brought, over the course of actually 2 to 3 years, and they brought those numbers forward to the Board of Ed earlier this year, I believe. It was the end of last year, school year, one or the other. It seems like we've been discussing it for a while. I can't remember which meeting it was. And so all of that to say, Dr. McGarry, that the main consideration is staffing. From an operational standpoint, it's about staffing. Do we have, would we have an issue staffing the schools if they are open on the Eid holidays? The answer is no. We already are open on the Eid holidays. The number of faculty and staff and or administrators that celebrate the holiday are not enough to cause an operational issue if they take the day off, use personal time to take the day off, which is what happens now. If you do celebrate Eid and you are an employee, you utilize personal time to take a day. However, on the other hand, there's the recognition piece related to the number of students and families that are celebrating the holiday. And we found that we have at least 100 families that we knew of in Avon celebrating this holiday. It's not students, that's families that all do have children in the schools, and that was the conversation of the board. So if you choose to add it into the calendar, it would be for that reason, to recognize our students. It also has the impact on our faculty and staff that those who celebrate that holiday are recognized and don't utilize personal time if they have it to use, depending on their bargaining unit or whether or not they are in a bargaining unit, I should say.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have another question?
Yeah, other question maybe just for the board is, like, at what point do we add another holiday should another religious group come in and say, we want to have, let's say they're Buddhists or Taoists or whatever, and want to have an additional day off to celebrate their religion, right? Like it's, at what point do we stop, right? Or do we look towards federal holidays versus religious holidays within the school district?
Well, I know I have my own, but I don't know if anyone else wants to speak to it first.
I think it comes down to hearing the community members and how many people are affected, like Dr. Carnemola was saying, taking it intentionally and not making a quick decision, but again, hearing everyone's feedback, how it would affect the operation, but also reflecting the portrait of the graduate and fostering cultural competence and that sort of thing as well.
I guess, oh, do you have something else?
No, I just think it's so to piggyback actually, because it's so important to look at Avon, because this is not just, if it was a national thing, sure, but this is what Avon looks like. So being that we are an inclusive school district, I think it would be a powerful thing.
One of the concerns I have is as you think about, additional families that might not have, let's say, additional vacation days. Maybe they only have a 2-week vacation. And with additional religious holidays that they have to take off, and maybe they have childcare issues or need to be able to take care of their kids. They're taking 3 days off for a religious holiday, a professional day, snow day. They could literally burn through their entire vacation days for their job, where they might not be able to actually celebrate holidays that they'd like to celebrate on their own as a family, versus having individuals take the day off from school to celebrate holidays that are meaningful to them.
Right. I think it depends on which families we're talking about, because the families who are needing or asking for this holiday are also taking their personal time off. So again, I think what Chris is saying too, looking at the overall makeup of the school, of the district, of the town, and, looking at how this affects families as equally as possible. So, some families are taking off holidays or having to take holidays and they're not religious at all. Some, maybe are leaning toward one religion, but it's just that issue of equity, I think, is most important. And, the number of people that have stood up here and testified really toward the importance of this, that's, to answer your question, that's where I take it into consideration. If it was one person, maybe it's a different conversation, but it's many, many people in the town, so.
I guess that's the question, which is there maybe another group that has additional, maybe they get another 10, 15 people that come in. It's like, do we then add an additional holiday?
I think at this time, if you don't mind, Chris. So this has been a very thoughtful process for us. We have had people come, and different people every time. They haven't even been redundant. It's been amazing, quite honestly. We have a lovely relationship with the community. And Dr. Carnamola, when she first came, reached out to, I'm going to get the name wrong, but the just up the road on West Devon. Yes, so even through COVID, we've had quite a relationship, and so this has been growing, and this has been incredibly intentional and thoughtful. This isn't something that we've done just off of feeling good about it. We really feel like we're recognizing the community of students. We've had alums come back and speak to us of their experience when they were here as students and how they appreciated that the staff did give them the time to worship in their space when they needed it, but how much more meaningful it would be if we recognized them as individuals in their faith. And I think because we've done it for others, that it just is completely in line with decisions we've made in the past, and it's not something we do often. We do the federal holidays, and then this is an opportunity for us to recognize our community as it presents itself. And so I don't see any harm in that. If there are other groups that come forward, I think as Sarah and Chris have mentioned, we would take that into consideration as well and listen to them and look. Again, Dr. Carmela asked for numbers. She said, how many families would this impact? We looked at the staff, how many people would have to take time off or not in order to participate. So we did our research. So I think that shows that we vetted this process, and it isn't something that we just do out of sleight of hand. So
Sure. And I mean, I think, like, I'm looking at this decision with respect to people's religious beliefs for sure, while also not continuing to have a focus on just one extra holiday, one extra day added to the calendar. And it might be helpful just to give people background. Like, I started a business 5 years ago with 3 other individuals, and I tell you this just from a standpoint of this is not religious. One of my business partners is Muslim, one's Indian, the other's from Brazil. And we are very focused on understanding each other's religion, what we do, and what we believe as individuals. But when you start to look at, the country, obviously the First Amendment, you've got the freedom of religion and the ability to actually focus on your religion. But when it comes to understanding, individuals taking a day off for a major holiday that they don't necessarily celebrate, what is the impact to that family of having a day where they've got one extra day taken off that they can't celebrate or do something additionally on their own as an individual family? Like, I'd like to see us leverage federal holidays, providing individuals an opportunity to take off when they want to celebrate their own holidays without having to celebrate maybe a holiday that they don't normally celebrate, and potentially impacting their overall vacations as well.
All right, well, thank you for presenting your side. I think you've spoken. Lynn?
I'll just say, as someone who doesn't celebrate Christmas or Good Friday personally, I enjoy those days off. I have no problem with it. And I imagine that other people in a community like Avon would feel the same way about Eid or Yom Kippur or other holidays, just because our neighbors and our colleagues, as your colleagues, as you said, are celebrating those holidays, and we can join them and celebrate together. So I don't think it's a hardship for people who don't celebrate the particular holidays.
I think, just to speak a little bit more to what Dr. McGarry was saying, because I think we had some of this conversation at a previous board meeting. I think it was actually Ramesh sitting in the same seat that asked about the ability for people to take off the holidays, kind of the more corporate model, the PTO model, I would call it, if you will, the paid time off. And what we talked about was operationally, that would not work for us in the sense that there are other populations of people that represent more of the faculty and staff that would take off days that would not be necessarily considered federal holidays, and then we wouldn't be able to open. So kind of the opposite impact. The other thing, because that is working, I think, well, I don't work in the corporate world anymore, but it sounds like it's working out there for people to do. But from what I understand, still there are times when they're closed regardless, and they're forcing people to take time off because they don't have enough
Correct.
people to work.
And with our maintenance staff, our nutrition service staff, and a number of other smaller staffs, we have a few folks take off because they want to recognize that they may be of the Jewish community or they may be Christian. If they take off, we can't serve food. We can't clean the buildings. There's highly impactful days. So, I worked in corporations a long time. My husband works for a corporation where he just gets a bank full of days. He's not even off federal holidays because it's a foreign company. And he just takes off. But there's a big difference between doing that for someone who works at home on a screen every day and calls his customers across the country versus running an operation where you need people in front of students. And those students have to have proper supervision. The schools have to be open. They have to be running. So I think we take that into account, at least operationally, when we look at all these things.
Okay. It seems like this holiday is not an issue with staffing, however.
Correct. This holiday is not an issue with staffing. I was just answering it from the bigger picture question of what you were saying related to paid time off, that operationally, if we went in that direction, we might have a different issue. It wouldn't necessarily be with this holiday, but there are others. We did have this conversation here also over time. One of the things, for example, that we have talked about, we have had a growing population of families that are celebrating Islamic holidays. I think we don't see as many families in town celebrating Jewish holidays as we did at one point, for example. Do we know that those numbers at 100%? No, not in either of those cases. But that was one of the conversations that we had also as a board. Back to your point, is there a standard to look at that it would be, no religious holidays were observed? I think that there are some school districts we've seen attempt to do that, and I don't think any have been successful yet at this point. Is it something to think about in the future? I think it could be, but I think in the bigger scheme of things, talking about this one tonight has, as I said, come to both this board and the one before it for at least 10 years. And so it didn't happen quickly. It didn't happen, honestly, for a while because we really were unsure how many people it impacted. And I think, one, more families moved into town over that period of time. And two, they were able to get us better numbers. Back to the days and the taking off days, I certainly can understand. I think we all can from the child care angle. That's why I just finished saying we need to put a calendar out there this far in advance. I like that this is how we do it, that we are putting out half days in advance and professional development days. You look at a lot of towns and the calendars don't have those on it. It says TBD, and you're punting as a parent, trying to figure that out, sometimes within a month before. But at the end of it, whether this holiday is here or not, we're going to have 180 days worth of a calendar. So a parent might have to take off March 9th, but now their child is going to be here one day longer than they would have otherwise. So in some ways, I don't know, that might be a wash, but just putting that out there because I think it's related to what you were asking.
Are there any other new comments or ideas? All right, barring none, then do I have a motion to approve the 2026-2027 calendar with the addition of Eid?
So moved.
Thank you, Sarah. Do I have a second? Second by Lynn. Let me just make this. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We have 8 in favor and 1 opposed. All right, thank you. All right, our next item is discussion and possible approval of the Avon Public Schools 2026-2027 budget.
It's easier for Susan and I to move over there so that we can see the screens and you.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay, so, as I said when we sent this presentation to you earlier this evening, we made some minor changes to have more clarity, really, not a lot of changes, not really any changes, actually, no changes, in the numbers from the last discussion we had at the workshop just last week. But we did make some changes to what we have on the screen and in your hands because we wanted to bring some more clarity around some pieces that we had some conversations about, including insurance, both in the workshop and offline, answering questions for some of you. And so we'll go through it again, also for the sake of the public who will be able to watch this. I know some of it will be redundant for you because we've discussed it so much already, but I'll try to move through it efficiently, that said, and pause where we have a few new items for you. One of which is, I called it kind of an insurance primer, if you will, that Susan put together for me just today. Thank you. When I said, I think we might need to revisit this again, because given the dollar amount that the benefits, the health insurance benefits, seem to encompass, I think it makes sense to pause here and to have that conversation again so that the entire board understands what the options look like when you are dealing with self-insured plan, as we are. Go ahead. Are we controlling it or is Christine? Christine, can you? Thanks. So, as with every other year, we prioritize our needs around the Portrait of the Graduate and Blueprint for Excellence. Blueprint for Excellence being the board and the district strategic plan, as you know. We are looking in this budget to maintain existing programming for students, add some necessities to continue moving the district forward, and also, of course, utilizing zero-based budgeting, which makes it even more difficult, to be perfectly honest, getting here by January 21st, having to try to start from scratch again this year, but we did do that, and I again want to thank both Susan and all of the building leaders and the administrative assistants, department coordinators, team leaders, everyone out there who helped go through every line of their respective budgets before they even came to speak with Susan, me, Mr. Medic, and previously Mr. Giannini. That's an important part of the process and one not to be overlooked because we have folks out there that are counting glue sticks and looking very closely at supplies and ordering critically, I would say, as we move forward.
we've talked more about this some years versus others, kind of depending on how the changes in the board have been, I guess I would say, because this sometimes is a different way of doing it. And certainly it was for me when I first started in Avon, because we did not, in the district I came from before here as superintendent, do the budget in the same way. You see these terms, gross budget versus net budget. And what we turn in as a gross budget includes basically everything, the revenues that we are projecting forward also. So when we submit our gross budget to the town, we are saying, here is everything we expect to have to pay for, and here is what we expect to get in revenue. And basically, they are then, once that budget is finalized on the town side, there's been the referendum, and it is adopted officially as the budget. You can think of it like all of that money is front-loaded back to us. And so here and there, as we go through this and you see gross versus net on the increase, the bottom line is to remember that the gross includes the revenue and the net does not include all of the revenue. With, meaning some of the grants that come through after the fact that we don't incorporate into the lines.
Everything you see will be the gross number. It's the net number is more on the town side. So just, we'd like to make sure that we're transparent with everything, but the gross number is our funding, what we received. Town receives all the revenues, and when they present the budget, we've often had questions from board members, why is the number different? Why is the number different from what we approved? And that's because they've netted all those revenues together that we proposed, and that equals what a net budget is. So they've added those numbers together and come up with what the net impact to the town's budget is, because we don't receive any of the revenue. The town keeps all of that.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yes,
Well,
no, yes, and
yeah,
I'll explain
it offsets
again.
our budget, sorry. So
I'll
yes.
explain it again when we get to
Yeah.
it. I just want, at the end of the day, that's all correct.
Yes.
I just want you to know that the gross and the net you see here tonight reflect what we are doing so far. When we get to the further down the end of the line, the net will look different. Yes, because they will be looking at grand lists and so forth. But what we are talking about here,
Our net.
our net,
Yes.
this is what we're talking about. So for example, I'll use this because I just want to make sure everyone understands. Parking fees, right? We have no idea right now exactly how many parking permits will be sold to students next year, but we can come up with a projection based on the current year, what that looks like, projecting forward how many students will be the age where they can drive to school. We look at those things, we look from year to year, and we say, here's a conservative, because that's how we like to do the estimates, a conservative estimate of what we expect we might take in parking permits. We will put that in as revenue. It could be that amount that comes in, it could be less. We won't know that until we're actually in the year where they are purchasing the parking permits. However, it's January of 2026, and we need to project forward what this will look like in the next school year. So that's one of the things I think people don't fully understand. We don't have this money on our side. That's what Susan is saying. When the revenue goes to the town, we might be the vessel for collecting parking fees, for example, but the money is being deposited in the account at the town. It's not actually in our lines to use when we are operationalizing this budget, but we are projecting the revenues forward. Does that make sense? Go ahead, Jessica.
So out of the list of examples that you have of the non-tax revenue, is there one particular area that is, that varies significantly from year to year over the past history?
Special education excess cost can vary a lot. Our open choice grants can vary quite a bit. It depends on the number of students we have participating. Athletic pay to participate really depends on the number of students in a given class, because generally speaking, most of our students participate in some form of athletics. And so that we can manage, we can project fairly close to what it would be based on the number of students that we have in every class coming into the high school. And pre-K tuition it's not a huge amount of money that we take in, but it can vary based on the number of special needs students that we have versus non-disabled peers who are not. They are the reason the program exists. So you are only paying tuition if you are electing to send your child to pre-K, not because they are required to be here for the services that they need. Okay. So, as you've already seen, these are priorities. Maintaining the literacy program that we already have implemented in grades K to 4. We do need some supplementary materials for the ELA program. Our curriculum's about $17,351. We are continuing to fund the program as a whole. We've utilized grant funds. I think we've talked about that quite a bit already, so won't go there unless we have more questions. Our Think Math program for K to 5, we need to put in another $45,768 to keep that program moving forward next year. That has been going well. As you know, we did not have a math program consistently for K to 5 until our committee was put together, full of district educators to select the materials, and they did that over the course of more than a year, and then we rolled it out, and we're happy to say that it is going as well as it is. So this is the funding need to continue that. I'll just pause for a second. Is there a question? I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if you were looking at me. No? Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I thought I saw your hand. I thought I saw your and Nicole's hand up. Sorry. Some additions, yes, for Think Math in grade 6. That's a small addition, $4,968. The athletic uniforms we talked about quite a bit also. This is, you'll see two things, and I think I answered this question for you, Kevin, offline. When you look in the line by line, there is a reduction of athletic uniforms. At the same time that you see there's an addition. There's a reason for that. To be clear, it is because last year we had to reduce this $23,000 because we did not do these uniforms last year. So the $22,000 reduction you see this year is taking out the uniforms that we would have done. We would have done, if we had done what we should have last year, but we could not because we reduced the budget, we would have done basketball, cheerleading, and crew, which now we are doing this year. We just pushed all of them forward 1 year. So if we had stayed on schedule, this year we would do baseball, wrestling, swimming, and girls lacrosse. So that $22,000 reduction that you see is taking out baseball, wrestling, swimming, and girls lacrosse. That was already in the budget because it was scheduled for this year.
Do we historically purchase new uniforms every year? So eventually we will catch up, hopefully?
Yeah, yes, not the same uniform.
Yes,
Right,
yes and no.
that's-
Yes, there's a cycle that's included in your binder.
Yeah. So my
yes.
question is, from now on, we'll see a reduction and then an addition each year? Or
We should
will
see
even-
stable funding, and if you see on that schedule, it has a estimated as of today what those uniforms would cost. It's an increase this year because we cut it during the Board of Finance session last year.
So the board had already adopted it with it in it.
So normally, no, you would not see that ebb and flow. You would just see consistency in funding and maybe a little increase up and down depending on how many uniforms, how big the teams are. But we like to consistently fund that and hope going forward we do that.
It's also possible that next year we come and ask to fund the year it should have been and the next year if we're able to do that based on what the budget looks like that year to catch up, back to your point.
Yeah, that was kind of the question I had, is if it's the opposite, now we are asked to reduce again or something like that, it just keeps getting pushed, is that right? In other words, yes, we want to catch up and stabilize, but
Though-
theoretically, it could keep.
It could, though, now that we are into a second year where these haven't been bought, if we were making reductions after the budget gets further down the line, I would still not recommend that this is what it was.
Right.
Because that students should have had these new
Last
uniforms
year.
last year.
Yeah.
Don't want them to wait another year.
And Bridget, it's a 4-year cycle, is that right, for each team?
We've expanded it to 6 years to accommodate them last year, and then to push this year into. So I believe it's a 6-year cycle now that Mr. Fryland's come up with, and I
Would have been
appreciate.
4.
Would have been 4. I appreciate his diligence in looking at it and really taking a look at the uniforms themselves to see which ones we could push out and expand that schedule to make it a lower burden.
So each team, just for clarity, uses the same uniforms for 6 years before they are replaced, but because we have so many teams, each takes a turn as to where in the cycle they get their new uniforms.
Correct.
Thank you.
That is the way we are doing it now.
Yes.
Moving on, some other additions. Can go back, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes, please. Thank you. Sorry. It jumped ahead one more and I got nervous. This looks like an incredibly long list. This is one of the places we added some things to after we went back. We didn't add these into the budget, we added these to the slide so that we could highlight some more of what the equipment was that was being added into this budget. I should say that as much as this looks to be, there was more than this that we did not add in that was requested. So that said, though, I think we should be as transparent as we can about what we did add in for multiple reasons. One, so that you have this in the line by lines, but everyone out there is not going to go through the thousands of pages. So to be clear about what we are recommending is added in regards to equipment. If we were at a place where we had to reduce, would we look at some of these lists? Possibly. Do I think that we should? No, because some of these, again, are items that we've reduced in previous years, and we've gone through and sat with the principals, the athletic director, to determine which ones to actually add in. So I just wanted to be clear that these are the majority of the additions you see to the equipment line. And I know we discussed most of these, but we added a few in to show you, such as the wrestling mat. That, again, that was in the line by line, but it wasn't on the screen when we met last time. The track covers, the track hurdles you didn't see last time, the floor scrubbers that we are looking to replace. It's replaced, right?
It is replaced, yes.
At AHS and RBS. There's a tech camcorder that they've asked for in the technology class, which we've discussed in previous years too, but did not do. Science lab equipment, some of which we put off in a previous year also, that we're, again, trying to catch up. And went back about the tuba. Asked again about the tuba. The tuba is broken, can't be repaired, and they do need it next year. So that is the reason that it is here.
We will entertain, as we discussed, I think Nicole had a question during the workshop, that if the opportunity for Title IV funds, or I'm sure working with Ms. Ferry, though she doesn't know it, about the Pedia grant, if there's any opportunity to do any of this, any of these items, or maybe even some of the items that we cut, we would explore that.
So the total for all equipment minus IT equipment in this budget is $149,463. That's all equipment besides IT. Yes.
How do we determine which athletic teams get part or all of their equipment? Because I know like crew buys their own boats.
So
from fundraising, but wrestling, like the mats, are we using those beyond the wrestling team using them for their matches, or?
I'll speak to the crew piece first and then we'll go. So that's the agreement with crew, much like what we were just talking about with girls hockey, boys hockey. There is an agreement that we have, like there is with the parents and the booster that runs crew. When I first started, I don't think we paid for anything to do with crew. Maybe just the insurance. Maybe. I don't even remember if that's the case, so I don't want to go on record saying it. But there were so many students participating in crew that we met numerous times with parents, with the coaches, and actually this is pre-Susan, this is before Susan's time even, and made some determinations about how we could move forward owning the program, but in conjunction with the Booster Club, because the boats, and I'm not using the right word right now, remind me.
Skulls.
Skulls, thank you. Skulls.
Scouts.
Yes, skulls. Should know this by now because we've had to talk about it so many times. They are incredibly expensive, so for us to buy them would be a huge financial, wouldn't say burden because I think the students need them, but it would be a lot to take on in the local budget. And so our Booster Club back then said, that's okay. We've been doing this. We know how to do this for now, at least, and to the foreseeable future. We will pay for those. And we picked up other pieces of it so that we did truly own it as an activity. How do we decide? So that's the difference there. So, for example, girls hockey is another difference because that's a co-op that exists outside of the school district. It's primarily funded by parents and booster funds. The rest of what you see here are teams that we sponsor as a school district entirely. So yes, we have the Booster Club that will raise money and give additional items to the teams. But the main items that they need, we would argue we should fund as a school district, and we shouldn't be putting to the Booster Clubs to fund. So these wrestling mats are an example of that.
They need them to compete, and they can't compete unless they have them. And the mats, Mr. Fryland asked for these mats, I think, first year I was here.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is a request that's come in.
And every year I've said
every
no and no and no, and now they're just barely usable. I think we're limping through this season with them. They've done all they can, and thank you to Mr. Daly and his custodial team here who clean them and use everything possible to keep them usable. And the other equipment, the track hurdles, and they're broken. So anything on here, Mr. Fidlon does everything possible to kind of push it off or repair it or do whatever he can because he knows just how delicate the budget is and is an incredible partner to keep the athletic program running. And it only brings to us what must be done.
Thank you.
Does that answer the question about the other thing? I just point out an example on here, PGS, the fire retardant rugs for $1,200. No one had asked about that, but I thought about it later and said, I might have asked about that if I were one of you. And you had so many lines to go through, you might not have noticed that one, or you might know already what those are. But in the elementary schools, students spend quite a bit of time in circles and on the rugs. And we had our faculty and staff very well-meaning buying beautiful rugs, and unfortunately, a lot of them were not fire retardant. And so when we went through the fire inspection, every rug had to be looked at to determine whether or not it was fire retardant and compliant with being in a public building. The ones that were not, we had to take out immediately. So this is why you see that here, for example. And over time, they need to be replaced also. Questions about any of those that I didn't mention?
Are there any other items that are safety, quote unquote, issues that we need to take
That
care
are
of?
on here?
Yeah. I know there are many more line items in the book.
Safety related, we have in the safety supply lines, we have a broad category there because I rely on Mr. Connolly and Mr. Oldsmith. Like just today, I had a conversation with Mr. Connolly about the AED devices and the pads. We have a rotation cycle of devices and pads. Mr. Medic's been working with the nurses as well on this. We have pads that are expiring. So we may not have in that line by line AED pad replacements, but I have safety supplies because we have to continually monitor those devices. So we make sure that we have enough funding in those lines to do those sorts of things, but it's more as needed, just like most of our maintenance and repairs are as needed. I'd love to tell you that what's breaking and so I can plan for it accordingly, but I never know. Mm-hmm.
And also the capital improvement projects have safety.
Correct. If that makes it through, we do have security funds in there every year.
Just the floor scrubbers. Is this something that's just used like once a year?
No, they're used daily.
Oh, daily. Oh, my gosh.
When they ride on the things and go through the,
Okay,
clean the
okay.
floors. Yeah, so
It's
most
not
of
just the
them.
gym floors that they're.
No. I probably look, Mr. Sturm, I think it's probably broken in some corner somewhere.
It is.
Yes, the one at RVS, yes, and I know we have one.
Really need one.
The high school has a couple of them, but it does put a burden on the team and doesn't allow them to clean the schools efficiently without those items. And Mr. Ultimus has been asking for these for years as well. So
Because ideally, all the floors are done every night. And there's not a crew by hand. It doesn't get that done in any of the buildings, not the size of the crews that we have. And these are seen as more hygienic to utilize on the floors also because they are picking up the water and so forth. I thought you meant on this list, Sarah. Were there any other safety items? Is that what you meant? So
Sorry.
no, that's okay. I just want to make sure that I address it. I think that, no, I wouldn't say that anything else here is necessarily besides the fire retardant rugs. However, they are operationally necessary, some of them, not just, good to have to move our programming forward, such as the STEM table. That's something we need to move programming forward. The cafeterias, tables is something we need operationally.
and they're actually, they're breaking. So I think Mrs. Borio is behind me and asked for twice as many as I funded. So we are having issue with those. So I would qualify those as safety as well.
Now, having said all of that, these are the priorities. These are the additions we'd like to make. They are not large-scale additions when you add up the dollar amount that we are talking about. They are primarily equipment. We are not looking at additions that are related to staff at this point. We had many conversations about possible additions of staff. There were requests that were considered, and this was not the year that we thought they should go in. And that's where we pause and pivot here to what will primarily drive this budget. Is none of what we just talked about, none of the rest of what we will talk about tonight, but it is health insurance. At this time, as of December 11th, we were given a number that represents a 34.9, just about a 35% increase in our health insurance costs. The reasons for that you can see on the screen, and we've discussed previously in both workshops. We have an increase of pretty much everything to do with medical. The stop-loss premiums, catastrophic claims, which are claims that are high because it's a major illness that an employee or a dependent is facing. Cancer, certain kinds of cancer are a good example of that could rise easily to the level of a catastrophic claim based on the kind of treatment that might be necessary. There's an increase in the number of claims. As Susan has said previously, we are told by the brokers and the insurance administration from Cigna that nationwide, statewide, they're seeing an increase of people utilizing health services. That is still being likened by many to post-COVID. Crazy to me that it's 2025 and we still have to say that. I wish that the time would come sooner when that was something we didn't talk about anymore, but I think it is just a fact, and there were people that put things off and are picking them up. When we talk about being self-insured again in a moment, it'll be more obvious why that matters as much as it does. It would matter even if we were fully insured to an insurance premium, if there was an increase in the amount of usage. But we are seeing it like everyone else is. There's also just an increase in what the market is in insurance, which is about 9%. And again, important to note that we are doing this at this snapshot in time. And so we don't know for certain as we sit here tonight, but we never do when we are at this part of the budget. The final number for health insurance has never been determined at this point. It is sometimes determined as late as early May. We hope for it earlier than that, but what they are doing is still working through the claims utilization before they will produce it, because we are projecting for it next year, but they are basing that on the experience this year. So that 2.9 million that you see, that is the increase. That is not the cost of the health insurance, that is the increase, the dollar amount. That alone on the bottom line of our budget, if everything else were zero, if there were no other increases, budget increase would be 4.09% just based on that insurance premium. As we said, we worked at coming down as close to zero as possible. Talk more about that after and show you what the differences look like. But we're gonna pause there and say, I know you probably don't have any questions right now because of how much we've talked about this already, but I want to pause and this allows Susan to kind of take us through some components of being self-insured so that all this is more transparent and accessible for what it means to be self-insured versus fully insured and where we are in the process of that as a town.
One of the questions I know we've talked about last week and ahead of this meeting is in regards to RFPs for the administration portion. I don't know if you're going to talk about that now or if you want to address it here with some of the increases, because that's obviously going to make an impact, but not a huge impact because it's just the administration of the cost of the
Maybe
plan.
we step through the
Okay.
slides
Perfect.
first. That would be great. Okay, Deb. Okay. So I don't want to read what those slides say to you, to everybody's got a copy of it, but I wanted to step through the difference really between what a self-insured plan is and what we all pay probably personally as our fully insured plan. They're two different models. The first slide we have talks about what a self-insured plan is. And what that is the town, municipality funds and pays for all the claims. They pay for the administration of the claims to a third-party administrator. In our case, is Cigna. They pay for any premiums for stop-loss insurance. So that actually is an insurance plan. We market and go out every year or every other year, depending on how long our contract is when we do a renewal, because when you do a multi-year renewal, it also often is more beneficial. We also have the actual claims themselves. So I had a doctor's appointment this morning. So I went to the doctor. The cost of that doctor's appointment will be paid directly by the town of Avon, not by Cigna, by the town of Avon through a wire transfer to Cigna to the doctor. So it's just a pass-through. Cigna is our pass-through. They're our third-party administrator, and they administer those payments for us. By having a third-party administrator, that allows us to utilize their benefits of their policy with each individual doctor practice. Hartford Healthcare, the Trinities of the world, the Yale Medicines of the world. They negotiate contracts with them. Often you see those on the news when those negotiations aren't going so well. We see the result of that when the higher cost for the doctors. So Cigna does that. They also have pharmacy rebates, which we are able to utilize, again, because we're paying the claims. So if there's a pharmacy discount on a drug, because the manufacturer is promoting the usage of it, there may be a rebate that comes to us for the utilization of that particular drug. All those come back to the town of Avon because we are the claims administrator. We are paying the claims. So we get all the bills and we get all the rebates. What the difference is between, next slide, Christine. I thought it was really important to highlight how they analyze self-insured versus fully insured plans. I have a lot of those. So just to step it through. For a fully insured plan, the insurance company pays the claim. Self-insured plan, the municipality does. The cost structure, and this is what's most important, I think, what Mr. McGarry kind of was talking about in terms of where the impact would be. Cost structure, when you are a fully insured plan, there's a fixed premium. Yes, we would probably have the budget a lot sooner. We may have a real budget number now. That real budget number would be based exactly on the data we're looking at, which is a really expensive past 12 months. That premium would be based on that. In addition, that premium would be based on profit. An insurance company does not sell us an insurance plan for free. They're looking to make a profit. So not only would we be paying for all the claims through the insurance company, through the premium, but we would also then be paying for the insurance company's risk and for their profit, which is why when you step down the grid and the table that we've looked at, the risk is low. The risk, when you're looking at insurance company versus fully insured, the risk is all on the insurance company when it's fully insured. The risk, as we're seeing on a municipality, we haven't seen this in all the years I've worked in school finance, so since 2014, I've never seen this kind of experience, ever. It's unique, but not unique to us this year. Transparency. Another thing you gain by having a self-insured plan that you don't with a fully insured plan is the ability, as Bridget has mentioned in post, we talked about in the workshop, the amount of times myself, Bridget, Mr. Medic have all met with not only our broker, but Cigna. Cigna works for us. They work for us as a third-party administrator. So we can sit down and individually, not by person, but individually go through claims and look for those strategies. Is there a wellness program we need to add that may or may not cost anything? Is there more outreach we can do to employees, to families, to say, hey, did you know that we could help you manage your long-term conditions such as diabetes? These are the things that are offered through Cigna's program. We're able to have those conversations and really step through everything with Cigna and have that ability to see that information because we own the plan. We own the claims. If we're fully insured, we would not have that transparency. We would just pay our bill and move on to the next thing. Also, plan design. When you're buying, and this is really important for a union atmosphere. When you're buying an insurance plan, if it's set, that's what it is. There is no, you can't design your own insurance with a large company buy for like the town of Avon. Where self-insured plan, there's a lot more flexibility. Is it completely design your own? No, but there's a lot more flexibility in what we could do if that is negotiated with the unions. And it's all of us step in here. There's a lot of things that are already in union contracts in terms of plan design, plan coverage that have been there for a while. And it has to be like, unless a plan change, we can change from from Cigna to Anthem to Blue Cross Blue Shield, as long as the bones, I'll call it, of the plan remain the same. The impact to the members has to be minimal for it not to be negotiated. And that's in every one of our union contracts. So we can't just choose to go to the state partnership plan, let's say, because that is not a high deductible health plan. Every one of our union groups has a high deductible health plan negotiated as part of their contract. It would be a substantial change in service if we were to change to a Blue Cross Blue Shield traditional model. And it's been a goal of mine, a goal with Dr. Carnamola, working with our team, all of our union teams, our partners, to change. They started it before I got here. We continued through all the negotiations, and I thank all the board members who've been on those committees with me. We worked long and hard to get our district onto high deductible health plans for our membership because it's better for the members and it's better for the district to be on those plans. To step back and to go to a Blue Cross Blue Shield traditional model is not fiscally sound for us. It's not the right way to go. And when you look at long-term savings potential, and this is the reason why most of the municipalities in the state are on self-insured plans, it's because there's greater potential for savings. And it's very limited potential when you're looking at a fully insured, profit-based insurance premium. Next plan.
Next plan. We'd love to have the next plan.
Yes, please. As I did my research, what you're seeing on the screen are the drivers of changes to the increased cost to municipal, in particular, self-insurance plans, and these are all the reasons we already stated at the workshop, all the reasons we had in our original slide. There's nothing different. These are the reasons driving every cost. It's experience. We are going out for a full RFP, and again, that's through our broker through the town who manages those requests for proposals. That is for our stop loss and for our third-party administrator. Our third-party administrator we pay fees for, so Cigna doesn't work for free. We have to pay them per employee per claim. So there's a cost each month for the number of employees we have. They forecast that out for the year. We set the budget, and we're billed monthly based on that. When we go out to RFP, we're looking for someone who has a robust plan that matches our current bones, maybe gives us a little something extra, but also is a lower cost or same cost, we hope. We could go out for RFP and all the bids could be more than what we have. And that's what we've seen industry-wide in other things like transportation when we discussed at the workshop last week. And a lot of other things that we've gone out there to bid, people are really surprised. Oil prices, fuel, everything costs more. We've talked about this a lot over the last 18 months, I think, inflation. That impacts all these items as well. Our medical providers, insurance companies, no one's insulated from the inflationary increases and pressures that have happened over the last 18 to 24 months. And we've seen that again in the higher claim cost, along with the higher utilization, which is resulting in the experience we've had. Really, the only way we can go step down from the 35%, 34.9 to be exact, is if the claims experience we've had in November, December, January comes in by the time we hit Board of Finance or before referendum, if that experience is better than they projected, better than we've seen in the previous months, then we can talk about perhaps that number can come down. And that's why we work with the broker. We don't set the rates or set the premiums with even our employees until May till open enrollment happens. That's after the referendum, because that's the most current data we will have before there's no turning back, so to speak, and where we set the rate premiums with our staff. And we only have that time to enroll new staff, make changes to our employees' coverage is in May. That's the time where kind of the ball stops, and that's where the final set. And we usually have that hopefully late April, so we have that opportunity to make any pivots if we need to do that at Board of Finance. I'm not highly optimistic we're going to get much below 30 at this point. There is some outstanding isolated claims experiences that have some legal ramifications that we're working through that may resolve. That resolves, we may get down into the 25% range, but I'm not sure we'll have that answer before April. And so the town, Bridget and I have talked a lot with the town about this. We've asked for their guidance. The plan is their plan that we're part of, and they've asked us to move forward with this number because it's the best data we have at this point, and they need to move forward with their process. And so they need a budget to move forward with the town's budget as a whole.
Does that answer the RFP question?
Yes, I think you touched on it. It was more just the admin portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess in addition to RFP questions, you'd mentioned, obviously, from your perspective, self-insured is cheaper long-term than fully insured. Is there a plan to go out for an RFI to really look at the difference of plan design in the future so that we can negotiate differently with different union contracts?
They look at that when even just most recently when Dr. Cornell and myself and Mr. Medic met with Cigna. They have recommendations, and we're working through those recommendations and whether or not they have an impact to bargaining. And that's how quickly we can do it. There also is plan design changes that can be only made at a plan level, and that would impact the Board of Ed and the town, and that is a very, very heavy lift to do. We will try to do it if that recommended savings is worth the effort or concessions that we would have to give long-term into union contracts to change that bargain, to change the impact of those union members.
I think from our conversations, I think what Kevin is asking, and we've talked about this in offline questions, but I think it's important to answer it here, is there are times that the town puts out, as part of this process, an RFP for maybe we want to utilize, not just utilize someone different as a claims administrator, but can the plan be looked at as a whole to make a determination of whether or not we should stay self-insured? That's really what you're asking. Like, is there any benefit financially to, say, joining the state plan, or to getting fully insured through Blue Cross Blue Shield, or fully insured through Cigna? That is a part of the process at times. Yes. Right now, that is not a part of this RFP.
Not the current one. Given our claims experience, there's absolutely no way that we would save money, given what we're experiencing right now when they look at the data. We have looked at it, though. We do have data that we've looked at, both my time in Canton, and in Avon. We've looked at it. There's never been a time where it's been less expensive.
I believe twice since I've been here, it's been done. I did just talk to the town manager again, and I know that it's a consideration, but right now, it's not a consideration because they're more concerned with resolving the claims that we have that have some high impact on this budget, and also looking through the administration piece of it and the stop-loss piece without doing it all at the same time. But we have gotten recommendations, first from, it was Milliman, that was our...
Oh, before Lockton, yes.
Before Lockton, it was Milliman. They ran all of those numbers for us, what it would look like if we went X plan fully insured, change plan design in this way. And that is a cycle that they have done that in town. What I will say is, I believe that the town is not looking at doing that right now, because there's also a cost associated with going out for that kind of an RFP. And the advice has been not to put the work and the money into that right now, because they're already pretty certain how it will come back based on what the claims experience looks like right now. But I would be willing to surmise that in the near future, they will do, again, what you're asking, just to make sure that we're not missing out on anything. It's just they're not doing it with this one.
I think if we resolve some of the outstanding issues and our claim experience looks a little better, it would be then beneficial for us to do it. We don't want to market what we have right now for that sort of plan.
Because to be able to get the information, you have to give them what your claims look like right now. And now would not be the time to try to do that, basically. I think, Lynn, you had a question?
I didn't know what
Okay, sorry, with our, we try not to use the lingo, sorry. Request for proposal, yes.
Did you have a question?
No, okay. All right. And we can always come back and answer more questions about that. You know, it's a lot of information, but again, I thought it was important to have the discussion here based on how many other discussions we've had about it.
I think this just wraps up what I think we already just touched on, so you could. Thank you.
So we put this together just to show you, again, we are looking at the potential increase of nearly 35%, and that would have a 4.09 impact on the bottom line of the budget. As Susan said, trying to be hopeful that we'll at least get down to 25%. Don't know that. That, as you can see, would be a lot more favorable, of course, to the bottom line. The 12 to 14% range is what we have seen as an increase, that most of the time, not all of the time that I've been here. There may have been a year that it was below that, but we put the 9.5 on to show, as I said earlier, that's kind of a base trend right now, 9 to 9.5 increase. I don't think anyone is seeing, unless they had the opposite experience as we did, where this just happened to be a great year for their claims. That could happen in a different municipality. But generally speaking, the market trend right now is about a 9 to a 9.5% increase. So we wanted to show you that. If we were only at what the market is right now, that's what it would look like.
And I will add that I've spoken to colleagues in other like districts. They don't want to be named yet, but they're they're experiencing 16 to 25%.
I know we've spoken about this at the budget workshop, but if you could just explain again for people watching or here, if we pass the budget using the 34.9% increase, but it does come back lower, can you just talk to what that
It
looks
will be
like?
adjusted later. And you, as the board, for that, don't even have to get back together to do that. That will just be adjusted. Whatever the exact number is will be adjusted as we move on. They do that every year. If more conversation was warranted from the board about it, God forbid it came in higher even than that, and we wanted to come back and have a conversation. Some of the equipment that I just showed you, are we not going to buy the rugs, or the floor scrubber again, or so forth. That might be a conversation you came back and had like we've done in some other years. But you don't have to worry about passing it tonight, because you're passing this budget, if you do that tonight, on the projection of that number. The rest here, many of it are also projections, but they are more solid projections than that one is. Okay, go ahead. So continuing on in the budget driver category, our workers' compensation has risen a bit also. That's about a 10% increase over the previous year. The disability insurance is up just over $8,000, and that, again, is due to actual premiums and what we are projecting right now, because they have also, this is another number that's not finalized until later in the season. Again, we have to estimate what our Social Security and Medicare employer tax will be, because we are not living in that year. We're basing it on current employees and projections for them being a part of the budget next year. So the salaries, that includes everything that we know going into the 26-27 year. Any contracts that are already settled, the reduction of some of the staff that we haven't gotten to yet tonight because we're still talking about what's driving the budget. And as we talked about before, and you'll see again as we move through this, actually salaries are a lot less of a driver this year than they are in some other years, and part of that is because of the reductions that have been made over the past couple of years. We'll talk more about that in a moment. The special education tuition increase, there's two things at play there. One is an increase of student needs, and the other is the costs are increasing out there in the market for outplacements. As we've said before, we work hard at maintaining our students here with us in Avon because, generally speaking, that's what's best for them. And when it is not, that is when we have to revisit their programming and make a decision about whether or not, alongside of a team and parents, if a different setting is better. And we have seen an increase, like I think we've seen in the entire state and arguably the country, of increase in student needs. So that is a large number as an increase, but I think it's, at this point, from Susan's projections, a good one, a solid one for now, because we don't only look at who we have outplaced at present, we look at where we are in a process with other students that we may be already involved in making decisions. Try to keep up on my own. So, thank you, Susan, for putting this together. We've had a number of discussions over the years about where the majority of the money is spent. And yes, that's in the lines and it's in all of the other graphics that you can see, but I think this one gives you a better sense when you look at the big picture, because it's hard to read from up there and maybe sitting back where you are, but the largest part of our budget salaries are instructional staff. And if you break that out, as you see, we did that this time, even into school counselors, school psychologists, social workers, administrators. We tried to really parcel it out so that it would be very obvious. I think We have to consider the fact that we are a people-driven organization, so salaries are always going to be a driver. Generally speaking, we've talked about this before. In school districts, they tend to be about 80% of the budget. This year, we are less than 80% of the budget with salaries. But the specific numbers I have in front of me, which you can't read there, for example. If you look at the instructional staff this year, that is 72.39% of the budget.
Of the salary budget.
Yes.
Yeah.
This, we're only talking about salaries on this. Just thank you for making it clear, but with this part, we're only talking salaries. The counseling, school psychologists, and social workers, we just thought that was important to break out because we have talked a lot about that over the years and adding in supports for students as necessary. That is 5.74% of the salaries. So just that together with the instructional staff, and those are both all certified categories. We are looking at 77, 78 plus percent of the salaries are between instructional staff and certified support staff. The rest, again, hard to read from where you are on this graph, but administrative salaries represent about 7% of the salaries. Advisors for student organizations are about 0.55%. The school offices support staff account for about 1.6%, so that's the administrative assistants, secretaries, so forth that work in the offices. They're about 1.6% of it. 0.92 is the school safety officers. Again, that's a numbers piece of it, how many of them there are. IT, 1.24% of the budget. Administrative assistants, secretaries, any support staff, courier, you name it, at central office, that's 1.7% of the salaries. So by and large, our salaries are going toward direct contact with students.
Graph, because I think we talk a lot about the other people, because I think the instructional staff are a given in our community. I think everybody knows that piece of it, but I think we talk so much about the other categories that you forget that they're just minor. Not that they're not important, they're important people.
In driving the budget.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Just a couple more. Transportation. We talked about our contract. We are actually fortunate to have such a low increase because of the decisions that the Board of Ed made years ago to extend that contract and secure a lower rate for a longer period of time. Most school districts in the state are not this fortunate right now. We have had some increased need in specialized transportation that goes hand in hand with having more students with special needs because specialized transportation can get fairly expensive. So again, this is an increase in that. This isn't the total dollar amount. Those are a few of the reasons that you see there. Go ahead.
Do you know when that contract is up?
2 more years?
2029.
you.
2029, yep.
So from this budget year, 2 more years, because this will end fiscal year 27.
That'll be fun.
That'll be another
We'll have to start talking about
process,
electric
yes.
buses.
Yes, now we're going to have to talk about electric buses. Can't wait. Supplies and equipment, almost $25,000 in increases. You saw the majority of what those were on that page. That's why I was trying to elicit more of them to be clear. Software, we are still looking at our IT pieces. Mr. Klein probably wants to have some words with us about how much we are attempting to reduce some of the technology lines, but we are still looking through those. But what we know right now, there is an increase no matter what we try to reconsider purchasing or look to put off a year or less, IT equipment, just in what we need operationally to continue running the student information systems in the district. We're talking about a nearly $50,000 increase. And those are things we've talked about previously, Power School, for example. IV, is that in that same line?
Yes,
Infinite Visions, which is what we use for personnel and payroll. What else is in that line?
Microsoft, basically any piece of programming, both for infrastructure, our virus software, our
Securely, that we have to get alerts for students. I'm just trying to give you a better idea of, again, it's in the line by line, but those are some of the pieces that are in there.
And some of them are multi-year renewals. There's a very comprehensive list in your binders of both software lines. But also Mr. Klein, Ms. Ferry, also negotiate multi-year renewals sometimes because we get sometimes it's cheaper to do 3 years than do one. As silly as that sounds, but they want the guaranteed business. So you may see a little ebb and flow with that because 1 3-year might come up, but the next year we don't have anything, a different will come up. So you'll see that. But recently, given our budget constraints, we've been making less of those decisions because we've just haven't been able to afford it. But we'll see some of that.
So, again, a new way of showing it we thought might be helpful this year, to look back in history. Again, you can see previous fiscal years very detailed within the binder. However, we thought it was important to, I guess this means we've gone on too long. We've extended our.
It hit 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it doesn't care about what we have to say anymore.
Good job, Tom.
Yeah. Luckily, our computers didn't turn off just now, too. He is being serious. We have things on a timer to turn off to save electricity, and the witching hour is here. So, at any rate, let me just explain before, well, it pops back up. So we wanted to show the 24-25 year, the current year that we are living in, at least to the extent that we can with what we have already adopted and expended, and projecting forward, because I think that's another way that you can see the differences in how this budget overall has morphed in each one of these years based on some of the drivers, like benefits, and also some of the ways we have looked to reduce what we could. When Tom eventually is able to get us back on the screen, you'll see, for example, in the 24-25 year, salaries were 56% of the driver, the overall increase. They were 56% of the overall increase. In the 25-26 year, they were 40.19, the year that we're living in. 18, excuse me. And as we're projecting it forward, they're 24.68% of this increase. And I thought that might be helpful mathematically to see, as I said, how this has morphed and progressed. Whereas benefits are exactly the opposite. It's 30% in 24-25 and up to 54.35% of the increase this year. Utilities, that varies from year to year. We're down 1%. One of the things that has happened that we hope stays the case when we talk about utilities being reduced is those Pura fees that we had a lot of conversation about. Those have been removed. That's one of the reasons we have seen utilities go down, particularly electricity. Another reason, and this is on a different slide, but since we're here, I'm pointing it out. Another reason is the energy saving pieces that we've put into effect as a district. But contracted services, I know we have a lot of conversation around that. That, as you can see, again, we're down at 7.2. You might remember last year, though, it was a different sort of year with that 13.24% increase because there was a large increase to the athletic trainer contracts. And so we had to absorb that last year after the budget had already been produced. And so now that's normalized and we're back at what we would consider a normal increase for contracted services. Transportation, same. See, that increase fluctuated, but certainly was a lot larger of one in 24-25. Tuition, more than it has been in previous years. Supplies and equipment, you can see what we've tried to do with that line. For as many of those additions we just talked about, we've worked hard at reducing other lines. And then all other, something that's hard to fit in any of those categories, 0.7%. People usually like to have examples of what's in the other category, and I didn't think of that until just now.
Dues and fees, our liability, our property, and automobile insurance, that actually is the main driver of other this year. On top of every other insurance we're going to talk about, probably for the rest of the entire year, those categories went up too. So our estimate right now is significantly higher. In fact, it was already high of an estimate, and then they came back to me and said, just wait, go that up another 3.5%. And that's included in the numbers. I had that number before last Tuesday. But we're seeing that it's not set in stone that, and I won't even have that number until July. So that's why we project that as the number they've given us. That's one of the categories that we never have until July 1st. And when we talk about that first budget transfer, usually in September, I do a lot of moving around between property and automobile and liability insurance and workers' comp, and because that's when we finally get those numbers, and we try as a board to keep them together in those categories so we don't impact students, but we're just using all those operational lines to offset those projections.
Thank you. Sorry. Sometimes I don't think of questions until we're sitting here. I like to anticipate what they might ask. So now moving on, because we've certainly talked a lot about what's driving it forward. And we knew that fairly early on that the benefits were going to look this way, because as Susan and I have said numerous times, we have been meeting about the claims. We've met many times. We do every year, but more this year because of the way the claims were tracking. So while we didn't know what the number would come in like, we did know that it was going to be higher than normal. And so from the get-go, we were looking for what we might be able to reduce. I want to be clear that sometimes there's a question like, well, is that really a reduction, or is that just something somebody asked for and then you took it out? No, we wanted to be clear. These are actual reductions year over year. We have a whole list of things that were requested that were taken out. You know, we were considering them at some point earlier on in the process. We've talked about some of those, what those were already. These are actual year over year reductions to the budget, the ones that we have on this list and that you see in the line by lines. And there are more than these. These are the ones that we're highlighting. Projecting forward on our tuition. I'm sorry, I'm back one slide. Yep, sorry, I was going to say I thought we were staffing. We are looking at some smaller class sizes in some of the cohorts that are moving through elementary schools. We've talked about before. Those numbers are all in the binder, what we are projecting forward next year. Thank you to Mr. Medic, who does that all year long for us, and part of how you see that on the enrollment report also. Each month, that's what we utilize even as we project forward into next year, moving the students up one grade. So we know that as of right now, at least what we're projecting forward. There are 3 elementary teachers that are retiring. We are looking to not refill those actual positions. That still will mean that there might be some movement within schools or between schools, because it's not necessarily a one for one. Say a 3rd grade teacher retires, it's not automatic that you don't need a 3rd grade teacher. It might be another year that we're looking at where we know we need one less. And so we do all of that shifting as we move later on. We don't have that conversation now because we are waiting at least to get through tonight, number one, and we usually wait a little further in the process to start talking to staff when we have more solid numbers and asking for when people might want to transfer to a different position, or if not, ask them to take on a different role, as we did with numerous people last year, as you know. Alongside of that, elementary teachers, teaching assistants, we've got attrition through resignations and/or some reduced hours there. That's always a moving target, teaching assistants, kind of like paraeducators is, because we base that a lot on not just the number of students that are in classes, particularly in kindergarten, but also in what the needs of a particular class might look like. Nonetheless, this is what we're projecting right now. As you can see, when we talked about this quite a bit last time, for the 26-27 year, at least, we are projecting forward with the reduction of the assistant superintendent. That was the position that Mr. Giannini was in and Dr. Rusak was in before him. We are still in the process of going through what that looks like for us and changing some responsibilities of people that are already in the organization, self included, trying to figure out what else people can take on to make this happen. We're having to live it right now, actually, because there is no one in the position since Jess was gone from us as of January 5th. We didn't see him again after the board meeting, but we started the new year minus someone in that position. Has it been easy already to do that? No. We are planning professional development, going through the curriculum of professional practices, committee agenda, trying to go through all of those materials, all of those things that Jess was more involved in than Roberto, me, and even Jody Krasansky in some ways. He worked alongside of her and or Elizabeth Ferry. I would say to you that I, on the one hand, am concerned about what it looks like moving forward without someone there, because over the years, since the Director of Human Resources was put in, which was the position that Mr. Medic occupied when he first started with us, until the position was changed, the position title was changed, but the job mostly remained the same, except some additional responsibilities were put on related to certified staff and student investigations and so forth. I think that with Mr. Medic assuming more of the responsibilities that Mr. Giannini had, or whoever would be in that role had, that some pieces have to be inevitably removed from what Mr. Medic does, and they are human resources related pieces. So we have an assistant at central office who we are talking with to attempt to pick some of the pieces up that she'll need additional training in and so forth, and does not have to have a certification for, as Mr. Medic does. The rest of us are involved in numerous pieces of human resources. I think one of the larger considerations is when we have a complaint to look into, for example, whether that is raised by a staff member, a parent, a student, no matter what. Again, we are a people-driven organization. There are always things to discuss and look into, whether or not they are actually an issue or not. Someone has, in the end, after we've gone through a process, I think that is where we might find ourselves needing to do, I know, that's where we will find ourselves needing to do something different. So for example, if we are looking at a particular complaint related to personnel in the future that Mr. Medic would have been the one to investigate or be very involved in the investigation, barring his availability to do that based on the other pieces that he's doing, we might need to utilize people from outside of the district to do it. So is that possible? Yes. Is it always the most cost efficient? No. It is more cost efficient to have someone who is certified and in-house to do it as we have done. But I think as we move forward for the next year, we can try that when we need to and call for an independent person. It would be, usually it's an attorney from a firm that would come in to do those kinds of investigations. I've seen some districts where a retired administrator might be employed to come in to do it and be paid per diem. Sometimes that's a gig, so to speak, retired superintendents take on. I'm going to work at the counter at Macy's or something. I don't know why anybody would want to do that, but I think basically what I'm saying to you is, and we've talked about this quite a bit in the workshop, but again, for the sake of tonight and the public piece of this, I don't have all the answers for this yet, because this all came as it came. We've worked through it. We are working through it. And here we are on January 20th needing to bring a budget to you. So can I tell you exactly who will do every piece of the work moving forward tonight? No, I cannot. Can I tell you, for example, we talked a little bit about, talked quite a bit about actually the current role of diversity and inclusion coordinator position. As an example, that position does not manage everything to do with open choice at this point. The person that had always been in that other assistant superintendent role did that, from the grants to oversight of the lottery seats and so forth, because it is a program to manage, and particularly in the grant funding that comes along with it, and being exact on what we are utilizing the funds for, like the question Kevin asked earlier. There are requirements that come along with all of those funds. Some of them can be used, by the way, for all students. Just kind of depends on what the purpose of the grant is. But we have to be very exacting in reporting those back. That is something I have talked to the person in that role of diversity and inclusion coordinator, Mr. Haynes. He's not with us tonight. He wasn't feeling well. Or he'd be behind me nodding, I'm sure. He is looking forward to picking up that piece of the work. He'll need some additional training in some pieces of that to work through it with us, people that have done the grant management piece of it before, but he's already gotten involved in that in some ways, as you can see, like by the grant we talked about earlier tonight. But this is different. These grants are larger, and they go from year to year. So he will spend time with Susan and I, and perhaps I think I'll be reaching out to Craig for someone from Open Choice maybe to come and sit with him also to go through some of those pieces to make sure that we are all on the same page, because it takes even people that have done it a long time, like Dr. Rusak or Jess when he learned to do it as he came on board, or me, to learn how to do that. Title IX coordinator is another example that has always been for the district. We are required to designate someone to be in that role and to take up those responsibilities. That has been Mr. Medic since not long after he started, because it fits in with human resources and what that position had done. That is something else that we think we can move into the umbrella of that other position. And I'm saying that other position because it exists already as the Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator as a title. I don't think that should continue to be the title of what that position is, based on what the person will be doing. What exactly do I think it should be? I don't know tonight. I mean, we're talking about it. San and I are talking about it. Roberto, Susan, we are just working through that, working through the organizational chart, working through job responsibilities. And I think that once we settle on all of that, of course, I'll bring it back to you. But the fact of the matter remains that tonight, there is a position that is removed from the budget. And I think we should be transparent and also say that, will there be a financial impact to some of the changes I just mentioned? I would, yes. For example, we have a human resources specialist that works alongside of Roberto and Susan that I mentioned that may pick up some additional tasks. It's not already a part of the job description, so might the salary for that position have to change depending on the tasks that are picked up? Yes. How much? I don't know. Depends on the tasks that are picked up that we're still working through, and that'd be something we talk about later. Do I think that any of those would add up to the same dollar amount as the salary? No. Otherwise, wouldn't be recommending it. That would be foolish. We just recommend put the position back and keep things the way that they are. So I think there are cost savings to be had, of course, by reducing the position. And in this budget, we have taken out the complete salary from the bottom line. But I would expect that you might see that some of that might be eaten away at, so to speak, by some changes to salaries of other people that might have to take on some different responsibilities. Or if, as I said, we have to call in people over the course of the year, perhaps to assist in some of those investigations, that will be at an additional premium, so to speak. Pun intended, how much we've just talked about insurance. But I can't tell you right now what that would look like, because what's our hope? That no one ever has to do any investigation that looks like that. But it's not really a realistic one based on running an organization with as many people in it, little people and big people. Lynn had her.
Where in the budget would we see that increase? This would be reduction.
I think we would see some amount of increase in salary So this is out of salary, and I think you would see some amount of increase in salary. And again, I'm not talking a tremendous amount, but I think we should still say it anyway. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that it's, $3,000 to $5,000 on the HR specialist. And I'm just putting that out there as an example, based on some of the tasks we've been talking about that the person might do. That's still not the cost of this salary. But where else might you see it? Most likely in legal fees, because those would be the people we would have to call in to do the investigations impartially. And I think Jessica had a question also.
Yes, I was just curious as to when the last organizational charts that were drafted, like what is the most up-to-date org chart?
It is the
you
one.
have?
It is the one that we have in the policy, and I can share it with you. Yes, 2022.
Okay.
And we just, well, that's not true actually, because we just have a draft again of what it looks like right now, but we haven't finalized that or shared it out yet. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm sorry as well. And then are there just job descriptions with each role, what the responsibilities are?
That exists, so the positions the way they currently are, yes.
So they'll have to be
Yes.
switched around. Do you have a projected date or goal for when you would like to complete what the new structure might look like?
Our main hope was to get through tonight and putting these budget materials together, because this, while we are doing this, to some extent, whatever we can cease doing, there's always something, there's many other things we're doing besides this, but if there's anything that we can put, I say, on the side burner while we do this process and make sure that we're answering all of these questions and going through all these lines and so forth, that's what we focus on until tomorrow morning. So we've already started it. We do have some drafts that we are going back and forth with, but just not anything to share. When would I expect to have it? I mean, the absolute latest I expect to have it would be March. And I say that because if there had to be changes in staffing, that's when we change, start posting jobs and so forth anyway. But we will have it done sooner than later, because it's something that's necessary even on the inside. People need to know what we're doing. And I haven't, our team that's here with us tonight, our leadership team knows as we come here tonight that this is what we're talking about. But we have not discussed this at large in the school district yet, what this might look like, because if it's not approved by the board, I'm not going to go down that path of having those conversations. Sarah.
So I'm really glad to hear that there are career or professional development opportunities for people in the district if this position is removed. I think maybe this has been answered, but one of my questions is, I say that because I always try to focus on the people more than the number, the salary or the budget number. But if we were to keep that position, and you might not have this now, but I'm just curious in the coming days, what would the percentage difference be in the budget?
0.28.
0.28? I knew you would know that, Susan. I was trying to give you a little bit of grace period, but 0.28 in the overall.
We knew that would be a question. We're ready.
So 0.28 in the overall, I just want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly. And I know you're talking about possibly having to add to some of these positions for added responsibility, but.
Yeah, 7.07% would be our new gross percentage.
Okay. I still have a hard time with this one, because I just don't want it to be underestimated what that position takes. So all the responsibilities, I think this is a very creative approach. I think it's positive to help develop people who want to step into larger roles, but I would love to go on record to say there's a huge position to be able to run a district. So 0.28% or whatever the difference is something to be noted and considered when we're talking this through. So anyway, thank you for giving that.
I sat with the person doing that job for the past 3 years. And some of you sat with the person doing that job at the table for the time before that. So the work that position has always led. And it is a lot of curriculum and instruction, professional development work. So
I just worry that if we take it out, to get it ever put back in is going to be an uphill
I agree.
battle.
I agree. But I think what I would also say is, and I do always say this, it's like a living organism, to run school district or any big organization, and the needs change, and I don't like to recommend things or make decisions myself based on entirely on worst case scenario, although many times that's exactly what I do for a living, is project out what the worst case scenario is and work backward from there. Because there have been other things that we have put in that were not here, and there have been other things that we've taken out and come back and said, well, we may need to revisit that. I think if we are being reflective and planful, then we are consistently looking at what the organization needs right now. And a big part of that, as we discussed in the workshop, is who is in the roles. It's hard to separate the two because if you're going to make these kinds of organizational changes, you have to also believe that the individuals who might have to do work additional or different than what they have done are capable of doing that. And I think we're fortunate enough that we have that. We have that flexibility. I know that between Mr. Medic and Ms. Krasansky still moving forward, we will keep moving curriculum and instruction along. I'm certain that Mr. Haynes will pick up everything else to do with open choice and be able to keep doing that. And as I said, he's happy to do that. Ideally, we are taking away some responsibilities at the same time that we are adding them on. So back to the idea of, well, what does this mean for salaries? I think in some ways it will net nothing in terms of salaries, but in other ways, as I keep bringing up this HR specialist for a reason, because there's nothing to take away there from what she already does without having another person. So that's an example of, I see an addition. We'll pause there for a second, but there are other things on this, right? Okay. Benefits, we actually, it's hard because we talk about benefits being increased and we talk about benefits being down. This is a different section of benefits. So we are at a reduction here in the two categories that you see in front of you, but one of those reasons is OPEB, other pensionable, other post-employment benefits that we talked about in the workshop. That is us reducing what the recommended contribution is. We have talked to the town about that, yes, however, and they are in agreement that that be done. I think they might do the same on their side based on what we have seen over time in terms of how funds are performing and the utilization of the same. And that is one way to further reduce this budget, by taking that down $375,000 from what we originally anticipated. Go ahead.
I think we should also consider, as we think about budget, not necessarily just this year, but into the future, that number could drastically go up should the market correct, and we need to find dollars to properly fund that pension plan. And as we think about the cost of healthcare increasing year over year and the potential cost of those benefits, we just need to be mindful of what that actually means for the budgets, not this year, but next year and the year beyond.
And I'll just clarify for the pension, I want to make sure everybody's on the same page. The pension, we are fully funding what they're recommending. Yep. So we're taking a decrease there. I know you understand. I just want to make sure everybody, the public does. Pension, the town was pretty on board with it. They want us to fully fund that. That's something we have active members that are actively contributing, actively pulling from.
We don't want to be that town that can't meet the obligations. No.
So that is just that reduction of $50,000 is the recommended amount that the actuaries had given us. So that's fully funded. OPEB, though, I agree 100%. Mm-hmm. We are kicking the can, and have had to do this a couple different years when the Board of Finances cut us late in the cycle, and the town has decided to do that. And that's what they have recommended to us and an avenue to do. They're pretty confident where we stand right now. The Board of Ed side, in terms of our liabilities, has a higher funded percentage of our post-employment benefits pool of money. The town was a little behind the 8 ball in funding theirs. They had kind of kicked the can a little further than we did. We made the decision, at least I believe since I've been here, to try our best to fully fund both of these. But the last 2 years, we're seeing this hit. So yes, we will have to pay for it going forward. So thank you for that.
Go ahead, Christine, thank you. Started saying this before because I was ahead of myself. We've had a reduction in the number of students that are attending magnet schools, BOAG, so projecting forward with lesser tuition that we are paying out. So more tuition on some specialized programming, less tuition on magnets and others. This is what I was referring to earlier with the utilities decrease. I won't bore you with it again. Some of our contracted services that you see being reduced, we hope through the DRIP grant funding, which we talked about last time, and put up again in a second. Rentals that we don't need, that includes, I mentioned in the workshop, containers that we didn't need anymore. That also, on the assistive end of it, there are times when we begin perhaps by renting something that a student might need, for example, and then when we know it's more long-term, it makes more sense to buy it and not to rent it, and that's some of what you see here. We have made some changes there based on student needs. Just reducing some of the professional development, as we already talked about last time. Technology hardware, that's what I was saying, Mr. Klein and Susan Sferry and I are still working through what this actually looks like and that $50,000 reduction. Some maintenance supplies, just based on what we've used in the past. Go ahead. Again, just another way of looking at the drivers. So to be clear again, every category of the budget, the entire budget, if without the health insurance increase, is 2.69%. All other increases. We talked about this already. Our special education seed grant, these are we are still listing them as opportunities because they have not fully been granted to us at this point. We expect to get them based on what we've been told, but we don't actually have the paper. The check is in the mail. Maybe the paperwork is too. I don't know from the state, but we are looking to utilize, even though it's a small amount of money, that $3,197 to do a little bit more with our students who have needs outside of the buildings. We talked to you already about utilizing a part of 200 Fisher Drive for this. This is kind of a small lead-in to that, to some alternative programming for us, but we're still hoping we're able to do it. And again, preliminary allocation of almost $29,000 for repair and improvements, particularly to HVAC, plumbing, and electrical, but no official word on that yet. Nonetheless, to be clear, you are not seeing that in the budget. So the next question would be, so are you going to reduce the budget by $128,000 if that doesn't come through? No, because we are going to do things with that money that we don't otherwise have in here, but need to get done. Go ahead. This is just overall picture of grant revenue. This is also in the binder. I know you've already seen this, but we didn't put this up on the screen last time. I thought we should tonight. Again, these are forecasts, right? We're living in the current year, so we say expected. It will be whatever it is at the end of this year. So conservatively, what do? We say the same for next year, based on what we've seen in the trend. Again, looking over the trends, the actual from the previous 2 years, what we expect in the year that we're living in, and then the forecast moving forward. And Susan, thankfully, is awesome at projecting these forward, looking at the trends and making the changes. So I think that when she does these forecasts, they're as close to what we can expect as possible.
I have a question on the revenue. As you look at that, you're forecasting it out, obviously, year over year. And as a budget beyond this year, the bigger issues I see are healthcare. As you kind of look at the rising cost of healthcare, that's going to impact the budgets into the future, as well as I think the pension is going to make a difference if there's a market correction in what the recommended contribution is to that to keep it fully funded.
OPEB, I think.
OPEB.
Both, but
More, I say that just to be clear, because the pension has been phased out in Avon already. I know you know this, but just back for the sake of being clear in public. So we don't expect to see that cost rise. It's the same way we might see the OPEB, but it could based on actuarial and market correction, to your
If we
point.
had a market crash,
Yeah.
then yes.
Yes.
And so as you look at
6%.
into the future, looking at these revenue drivers, open choice attendance is a driver of $808,000 or $808 million.
808,000.
8,000, yeah. How many students are in open choice?
That is projecting 101 students. That's how much they were the number of students we had as of 10/1. So we're paid in all of our grants. All the numbers that we're paid on a per pupil amount is based on our 10/1, what's called PSIS number. So that's our state
Reportable number.
Our state reportable. So I took the state reportable number of what we had. I looked at our falling off 12th graders. I looked at the seat projections for the next year, and that's how I came with our 101. That's what we use for going forward. The Early Beginnings Grant is a grant at $6,500 per student for our open choice students in pre-K and K. I use the same methodology for them, looking at the current enrollees in our 3 and 4-year-old program, as well as our open seats for kindergarten.
As you look at that, you have that's 8,000 per open choice student. And I know we've talked about this a little bit, but what's the overall actual cost? I mean, this is revenue to the budget, but what's the driver and all-in cost to participating in open choice as we look into the future, from a para cost, from additional staff, from overall cost to the district? And do we need to look at that as something that we should be participating in? Not necessarily this year, because the budget is what it is, but as you look at 27, 28, 28, 29, and truly understanding what the actual cost per open choice student is.
I think you can speak to the per pupil expenditure in general and go from there.
So I guess I would say the way you're asking it, I don't think I have an answer, but I would say any student that attends Avon Public Schools is an Avon Public Schools student. And the per pupil expenditure we have for those students is what it is. It's a little over $21,000. The special education cost for any student who's part of the open choice program is reimbursed 100% by the town of Hartford, city of Hartford, less their $8,000 per pupil, because they've already paid that to us. So what you see delineated out in the tuition reimbursement is any town or city that sends a student to Avon, Hartford. This year we have a couple other towns where we have students that are placed through foster care into a home in Avon, one of our lovely families that takes them in. That's reimbursed as well in full 100%. So there is not additional special education expenses per se, because they are offset with reimbursement from the city of Hartford and any other town that sends DCF students to us.
Okay, but there's, from a overall per student within the district, it's 21,000.
A little over 20,000
And
for
then
any student.
open choice is an $8,000 reimbursement. So there's at the end of the day, there's a cost to participating in that based on what the actual cost per student is within the district.
It's a bit more complicated than that. I don't think.
Yeah,
I
I'm
have
not
that
in my
either.
head just trying to think through the.
In essence, if it's 21,000 per student,
Right, because
and we get reimbursed 8,000,
but it's more complicated than that. There's a lot of other grants tied to open choice,
Mhm.
which is why
That's why I'm not in my head
it's
trying
not an easy answer, nor the early beginnings grant is directly related to open choice students. We have open choice attendance. We have the chef settlement, which is an open choice related grant. So it's a multi-layer, which is why the town has chose to treat it this way. They're per pupil, and that's the per pupil cost for any student attending Avon Public Schools. And this is revenues. So
I'd be interested if you could kind of delineate that out for us in the future so we could look at what those actual costs are per participation.
I think Chris has a question, but I was just going to, I was trying to process this while you were asking at the same time. The per pupil expenditure is a basic formula, which is the total dollar amount of the budget in any given year divided by the number of students on October 1st. That's how you come up with a per pupil expenditure, right?
No.
Generally, no. Got it. Okay, that's my for dummies version. Not that mean
Yes,
you are,
yes.
but that's the way I usually explain
I
it.
just
when
don't want
someone tells me
anyone in the
what
public to take the math and do that because it won't work for us. So I don't want to get
But
called out on that.
generally speaking, that's
It's the total amount of expenditure. So if you were to go on EdSite or any one of those, so that could include grants. It could include other expenditures, which puts together the whole
because it
profile.
it
Yes.
also has revenue in it. Because there's grants included.
Correct.
And that's what
Yes.
that's what I'm getting at, that it's harder
Yes.
because
Yes.
it's a harder delineation to make because some of the grant funding is already also in there too. So you come up with this number, and generally speaking, yes, it's the expenses, and I'm just saying the bottom line of the budget, expenses in the budget, but also some pieces of grants. So as we've been talking through this, and there's been some questions offline too, been trying to think about what that would look like to parcel out, because it's not, the math won't work exactly in the way that we're talking about it right now, that it would be 21,000, minus 8,000. And none of the way the accounts are done, this is why Susan's answer is what it is from the finance perspective. An Avon student costs what an Avon student comes, and as soon as a choice student comes, they're an Avon student. And so the way that our finances reflect it is in that way right now. So if we are going to break it down in a further way, we have to figure out a little bit better of how to do that. So if we want to move forward and break that down further, Susan and I are going to have to do some work to figure out what that looks like, if that's what we're talking about. And we started it a little bit because of some of the questions that we've gotten, but I'm just putting out there that it doesn't exist in the way that we do it right now, by pupil.
And to clarify, the per pupil 21,000 is done by the state based on data I report at the end of the year for our what's called our EFS report. It's not even a number that Avon comes up with
we don't
themselves.
calculate it.
It's on the state's website. It's done by the state based on expenditures I report at the end of every year based on our audit.
Same with every school district.
Every school district in the state is on here. So that's the data we have, and that's the data we use for per pupil for everything we do. Excess cost, the ECS grant. They take all these information into account when they come up with those figures.
To be fair, to one step further with Kevin's question though, some of it is contained in the system in one way or another because of the billing back to Hartford. So some of the per pupil expenditure related to individual students would be easier to come up with in that way because we are billing back to get reimbursed. In the same way that we get billed for our students if they need special services and they are at one of these magnet schools, for example. But we would have to do a little bit more work to look at that. I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris. I was just trying to think through fully.
No,
what I was
I was going to say that's why I think that we would all very much benefit from having a presentation from Correct done, because as I sit in those meetings, it is a very convoluted thing. It's not easily understood. I've been on there for 3 years and I continuously learn new things. But I will also say that these students don't come as a cost to us, and we also benefit. So as the new math program, that helped fund that. That was through the open choice funding that we got that benefits all of the kids. So there's a lot of things, yes, that are set just for the open choice students, but a lot of it has to go to all of the kids. And if we didn't have those funds, we wouldn't fund some other things too, so.
And that's why I think it would be helpful to have that level of transparency to understand where that is. Yeah.
Lynn had something.
If I understood Kevin correctly, though, that you're not suggesting a change to this year's budget.
That's correct.
Okay, so maybe that information will be useful, and I think having a presentation from Craig would be useful, but perhaps we could move it to another time after we settle this budget. That's just what I heard you say too. Yeah.
And I would also add, we have very thoughtfully brought these students to Avon. We intentionally try to get them at the preschool level so that we keep them all throughout. They are ours. And we have families who are here that have been here for years. And so I don't think we should lightly offer up removing them from our student body. And I think that's a vote that has to take place with all 9. That can't be a task that you're given to the superintendent to do when I don't think you have support for that. So I think you have to be mindful of that.
I think it's a look at the budget into the future and what the costs are and what the budget increases are going to be on a year-by-year basis, and to truly understand what the line item budget items are and what the revenue is. I'm not saying we should eliminate open choice today. I'm saying we should.
But you want us to consider it.
I think we should identify and consider each of the line items within the budget. That happens to be one that I've heard individual folks from town ask me about, and that's why I'm bringing it here today.
And we can have conversations and we can have more training, but I need you to also understand that these are students, these are human beings, these are families that have invested. Parents don't make that decision lightly to send their child out of Hartford all the way to Avon. The number of hours they spend on the bus just to get to us and then to be returned home. The amount of effort that we put in to give them a full-bodied experience with not only academics but also athletics. I'm just saying it can't just be a conversation that let's just get a number and find out how much they cost us. You're missing out on the benefit piece that we get from them. So I just want to be clear that I don't want it to simply be a line item that we're researching. We're talking about kids.
Well, I mean, the last discussion was about an individual role, a position, right? So that's a person as well. And I'm saying looking at it's still a person.
So we respectfully, I would implore you to come to a correct council meeting. We have presentations upon presentations from students and their families and what this program has done to change their lives. In a perfect world, this wouldn't have to exist because all of the schools in our state and our nation would be equally funded. And as we all know, they are not. I am thankful that my children and all of ours gets to come to Avon where we can talk about millions and millions of dollars and programs, and everything that has been in this hasn't taken away from our students. What you're referring to is not just taking away from our students, but taking students away from us. So I would very much have someone come, not to talk about the funding, but it's 2 separate conversations. It's not just funding, these are children that we're talking about that are often, I don't want to get off into the weeds of it, but it's in-depth. And I get to be, so not only am I on CREC, but I'm also on the CREC Foundation Board of Directors. So we're the ones that get to do, we send kids to school, we send kids to college through scholarships, everything else. To hear the stories of how I got to read a letter from a girl that went pre-K through 12 from Avon. Remarkable. Thing is that we help do. We help facilitate that. So I sound passionate because I very much am, because these are human beings. These are some of my kids' friends. So I would just say that we probably, I would say that I've done an injustice in not having someone come here earlier to explain all of this, because it is in depth. But any conversation to just take a line out about, I don't think those are the correct words.
Might not be the correct words, but I think you also look at what students that are participating across the district, whether it may be robotics or athletics or some other activity that might need to be cut because we have to make cuts to the budget. And I think we need to look at what are the programs, the impact to the students, because they are people, right? They have individual opportunities that maybe others don't. But then also we have to look at what are cuts to the budget that might need to happen in the future, and what are our different options?
Let me help if I can. So this isn't for tonight. I understand. I think we have to have a larger conversation. I talked a little bit to Kevin offline too, trying to understand how this funding works and so forth. I think it is a good idea to have someone from CREC come in so that we can talk big picture, and then we can make some decisions about what else we want to look at, and go from there. I think we should start with getting some sense of, Susan and I will keep thinking about how else to look at this data so that we are prepared to be able to give whatever we can that we might need to discuss. Again, need a little bit more time for that because we don't have it the way that we're talking about it right now. And we might not want it that way. We might want it a different way after you hear the presentation. I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole with trying to produce the information in a way that we don't have it right now without knowing exactly what would be helpful to look at. And I think what you're saying, Kevin, is thinking about big picture expenses versus revenue in general. This is another source of that, even though it is also a programmatic decision that has been made. And so I think we can take a look at the big picture and then go from there. And Susan and I will try to give whatever we can, or CREC can, because they may have information at their fingertips that Susan and I do not. Does that make sense? Because nothing about this is going to change no matter what. If someone raised their hand on the board right now and said, you know what, maybe we should pause participating in open choice until we figure out if we're able to sustain it financially, if that was the concern, we wouldn't be able to do that tonight. We are already engaged in the process. We have the students here, to your point. We have a lottery that's already been done. There are more students that are already applying. And so if that was something that the board did want to consider, it wouldn't be for some time. So I'm just saying that so that we can move forward. I'm not saying that is what anyone does or does not want to do, but if that's the conversation to be had, it's probably not for tonight, so that we can keep this moving forward. We're projecting the revenues the best we can, like we do every other year, based on the number of students we have right now and what we expect to see next year, and based on student needs of all of the students. And we'll dig into some more pieces of it as necessary, I think, after. Do you need me to reach out, Chris, to CREC? I will do that. Okay. Okay, so again, another way to look at it, because there are charts and there are graphs, but here are the exact numbers pulled out in summary from thousands of pages, and we've discussed them in numerous other ways, so I'm not going to read them all to you from the screen again. Again, we like to produce it in as many different ways as possible to make sure that it makes sense to those who are looking at it. And again, this includes what we expect the medical renewal to be as of 12/11. Go ahead. And so for 26-27, the health insurance increase represents, at this time, a 4.09% increase to the budget. The remaining gross increase being 2.69. And again, back down to net, and this is why I wanted to get into that conversation earlier. The net amount is different. It is because we are talking about the difference between projected revenues in gross and not. So take any other questions if you have them. I don't want to keep belaboring points that you may not have questions about anymore.
I think it's worth pointing out that the 2.69 is incredible. I know. This process starts in July. I mean, you guys work tirelessly, and it's an effort that is taken on by everyone that's sitting in this room. And we appreciate that. We know how intimate you are in your buildings with all the supplies and all the things that you engage with and that our students touch. And we appreciate the integrity of this process. I know that whenever we take these votes, we are standing behind it because we know the work that went into it. And we can say honestly to anyone who asks that we believe what we are asking for is fair and what is appropriate and is fiscally responsible. Do we like that the benefits is as high as it is? Nobody's comfortable with that. It doesn't change the fact that it's required. And so as advocates for our students, I'm prepared to vote in favor of moving this forward unless there are any other questions. All right, then I will make the motion to approve the proposed gross budget of $77,747,362 as a living number that we work within, but this is what we'll put forward to the town council. Do I have a second? Thank you, Lynn. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously with 9. Thank you. All right, any more communication from the public? No. Any communication from Avon Board of Education members?
Sorry, I know it's late. I just want to say I'm very glad to see Eid on the calendar. I'm very thankful that we were able to do that. I will never support removing open choice. And I think that the creativity and the skill that's gone into getting to this point is unbelievable. So thank you, all of you that are part of that, and administration. I think you've done a phenomenal job.
Chris?
Same. I will never vote for to take away open choice. Congratulations to the students and their families that get to celebrate Eid now and have that day off. And thank you to all the faculty. I wish I was able to stand too. And lastly, what is the beeping? That's all I wanted to know. Oh my goodness.
The beeping.
Oh, yes. Something needs a battery replaced.
Anyone? Any other board members? All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, Chris, do I have a second?
Second.
I take Sarah. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously at 9:56 p.m.